Chapter 1047. Hu Liang did not know how he got through the night. The voices in the cabin next door did not stop from evening to dawn. He collected a lot of bits and pieces of information, but he did not know which was true and which was false. The person next door deliberately told him the news. When the person next door asked him a question and he did not answer, the person next door would knock on the cabin board so that he would not fall asleep. There were 2 times when he was really too sleepy and was about to fall asleep, but he was woken up like this. "Young Master Hu, you're awake? Come with me to wash up, breakfast is about to begin." Hu Liang walked out with sleepy eyes. Before he could get used to the dazzling morning sun, a person appeared beside him and greeted him with a smile. "Thank you for your trouble." Hu Liang politely cupped his hands and followed the person to the bathroom. The bathroom in the morning was different from the bathroom where Hu Liang bathed yesterday afternoon. There were 2 large pools for bathing, and there was something that sprayed water from the top. The inside of the pools and the floor were covered with baked tiles. Ordinary people did not even dare to think about using them, and this was only a place prepared for the people of the inner courtyard. The bathroom was 3 large pools that were half the height of a person. They were also covered with tiles. At this time, there were already many people coming to wash up. They were all men. The women were probably more troublesome. There was a row of mirrors in front of the pools. Some of the men were facing the mirrors and tying up their hair. Some were tied up with ribbons, some were tied up, and some were pinned up with hairpins. "Young Master Hu, here are your toiletries." The person who led Hu Liang here opened the cabinet in the bathroom and took out a thin porcelain box. He turned around and handed it to Hu Liang. Hu Liang gently opened the box. There were a few things inside, most of which he recognized. There was a toothbrush with a brown handle, a tube of aluminum toothpaste, a towel made of pure flour, a tea-scented soap, a tube of something similar to toothpaste and tea for washing his face, a razor, and a comb. There was only a very small and long scissors. He did not know what to do. He looked around and found that someone was using the scissors to cut his nose hair. He could not help but chuckle and muttered, "Just pull it out. Why bother to cut it? Men are not like men." That person didn't say anything immediately. When Hu Liang started washing his face and the other party finished cutting his nose hair, he turned his head and said to Hu Liang with an unfriendly expression, "After you're done washing up, we'll go out and fight." "What for?" After wiping his face, Hu Liang asked in surprise. "I'll let you see who's not a man. I'll fight you with one hand. If I can't beat you down within 3 moves, I'll voluntarily quit the Seedling Protection Team. I'll take off the Seedling Protection Team's logo and throw it into the river." The man pointed at the rice seedling logo on his chest. Hu Liang estimated the fighting strength of both sides. While squeezing toothpaste into the toothbrush, he said, "Why bother? Actually, pulling is really more convenient than cutting. I've always used the pulling method." "Ignorant. It will grow and become thicker after it is plucked out. At that time, it can only be used to block stones and not dust. I don't think you dare to fight one-on-one." The members of the Seedling Protection Team left after they finished speaking. Hu Liang began to brush his teeth vigorously as he stared at himself in the mirror. His gaze was unfriendly. After brushing his teeth and preparing to shave, he carefully observed his surroundings and continued to mutter, "Do you think I'm afraid of you? You're just brave and ruthless. I'm a think tank." After shaving twice, he stopped to look at the razor and muttered, "Good stuff. The inner courtyard's special provision is really extraordinary. Let's shave. I didn't shave before and let it grow on its own." Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan said that only rich people can grow beards. Ordinary people grow beards that delay work and grow parasites. So troublesome. After Hu Liang finished cleaning up, the person who led the way just now called him again, "Young Master Hu, follow me. What do you want to eat? Do you still have the smoked chicken from yesterday?" Although Hu Liang was full last night, he still planned to eat. Last night, not counting other things, he ate 2 smoked chickens alone. Fortunately, they were semi-big chickens that were specially raised for a short period of time for the sake of tenderness. Meat chickens and egg-laying chickens had not been fully cultivated and needed many generations of cultivation. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were already working hard to do this. The person who led the way glanced at Hu Liang. Wei Wei shook her head and replied, "There's no whole chicken. There are cold plates made of bits and pieces. If you want to eat meat, there's cold shredded chicken made of chicken breast meat. Once you've decided, you can't change it. It's shameful to waste basic food. It doesn't matter whether you spend money or whose money you spend." Hu Liang understood the hidden meaning in the other party's words. He estimated that there was something better. If he chose chicken meat, he would miss out on good things. He said, I know. Zhang Xiaobao said that only poor people would order a table of cheap dishes. They would buy steamed buns that cost 100 strings of coins and throw them away because they couldn't afford a dish that cost 1,000 strings of coins. Wait, let me see first. I'm not busy. When they arrived at the restaurant, Hu Liang was proud of his wisdom. He opened the breakfast menu. There were 30 kinds on one page and a total of 12 pages were listed. While he was dazzled, Hu Liang found it difficult to choose. He wanted to eat everything he saw. He scratched his head and asked the person who led the way, "What do you want to eat?" "A bowl of bean porridge, 3 pies with pork fillings and 3 cucumber and egg fillings, half a plate of radish pickles and half a plate of garlic and cucumber." "That's all," the person who led the way answered. Hu Liang thought about the taste and shook his head. He asked again, "What did Xiao Bei eat this morning?" "I don't know. Let me ask." The person who led the way turned and left. After a while, he returned. Xiao Bei chose a bowl of milk, 2 sauced steamed eggs with salted mushrooms, 2 tails of sugar-free cake, and a fruit platter. "That's all." "Why didn't she eat fried eggs?" "You can tell from the name that it's too troublesome to make." Hu Liang added, "She doesn't like to eat it." The person who led the way answered quickly, "What about Xiao Yuan?" Hu Liang did not plan to eat the same thing as Xiao Bei. "She added a sauced steamed egg with salted mushrooms." The person who led the way answered quickly, Yes. Xiao Yuan is a boy and has a bigger appetite than a girl." "Where's Xiao Cheng?" Hu Liang was speechless. 2 bowls of soy milk, half a kilogram of youtiao, half a plate of spicy cabbage, half a plate of salted garlic, and a plate of dried tofu with onion oil. "Why do you want 2 bowls of soy milk?" "Because she likes to drink it." "All right. Give me 2 bowls of soy milk, 2 trays of soup dumplings, a large plate of soy sauce smoked chicken wings, 6 spicy duck heads, and a plate of pig's ears." "If I can't finish them, can I take them back to the cabin?" "That's fine. But we can go to the kitchen whenever we want to eat, as long as it doesn't affect our work. If you want to eat buns, I suggest you order tofu pudding instead of soy milk." "I like to eat this way. I don't need the duck heads and chicken wings first. I'll go to the kitchen to choose when I'm hungry." After spending a lot of energy on breakfast, Hu Liang finally chose what he wanted to eat. He looked around and chose a table near the window of the cabin of the restaurant and sat down. While waiting for the food to be delivered, Hu Liang continued to observe. The restaurant wasn't small. There were 30 square and round tables inside. If it weren't for the few wooden pillars holding them up, the canopy would probably have fallen down. The words, "Restaurant Number 1, were written at the entrance. Thinking about it, there should be restaurants number 2, number 3, and so on. Maybe it was a big restaurant and a small restaurant, and Xiao Bei and the others wanted to sit alone. While Hu Liang was thinking, the breakfast he ordered was brought over by the servant who was in charge of leading the way. The servant sat across from him. Just as he was about to speak, everyone in the restaurant stood up at the same time and said in unison, "Hello, madam." Hu Liang also stood up. He was shocked. "Hello, everyone. Please take a seat." When they heard a woman's voice, they all sat back down with a hua sound. Only then did Hu Liang see the person who came out of the door through the gaps between the people who were walking to and fro to get food. With just one look, he was stunned. The person who came in was Jiang Wang clan, Madame Wang, Xiao Bei, and the other 11 children. They were puzzled and asked the servant opposite them, "Is the master eating together?" "Why are you here if you're not eating together?" the servant asked. What I mean is that the master needs to have the identity of the master. If you're always with the people below you, it's easy to lose your dignity. Only by keeping a distance can the people below you respect you, understand? Hu Liang explained. Madam has already kept a distance. She usually doesn't joke with us. Only Xiao Bei likes to joke with us, but how can we dare to think that she's easy to bully? Do you understand? The servant replied. That's too casual. Hu Liang insisted on his opinion. If you keep talking about it, I'll chase you off the boat. No, I'll lock you in a small dark room. It's safer to eat together. If there's any danger, the people around you will be your cover. The servant was obviously angry. Hu Liang raised a hand and signaled for the other party to stop talking about this topic. He lowered his head and began to eat. As he ate, he realized that other than the sound of eating, the restaurant was very quiet, so he raised his head again to look. He whispered to the servant in front of him, "To be honest, if you guys go to a big family, the treatment you get is much better than the Zhang clan and Wang clan. For example, if you get 10 strings of cash a month in the Zhang clan and Wang clan, you can ask for 10 strings of cash a month. If you go to a big family, you can ask for 10 strings of cash, which is 100 strings of cash, and people will fight to get you." Really? The servant asked in a low voice. Of course. Hu Liang nodded. Can you introduce me to a big family? The servant asked again. Hu Liang shook his head in disappointment. I'm just kidding. I thought you would scold and refute me. Who doesn't know the benefits of being in the Zhang clan and Wang clan? The monthly salary is only a small part of it. The real benefits are the stability of the family and the other benefits. For example, if it's a meal, other than you, who else would let you choose from hundreds of different kinds of food? You see, if I want to join the inner courtyard of the Zhang clan and Wang clan, is it difficult? Not difficult at all. Hu Liang was very happy to hear the reply, but he was surprised because the voice came from behind him, and it was a child's voice. Hu Liang turned his head and saw Xiao Bei standing there with a piece of watermelon in her hand. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, asking, "Why don't you walk?" "Because I'm wearing soft-soled shoes. I like to run around, and hard-soled shoes aren't good for my feet." Back to what I said just now. Tell me your family's name and address, and I'll find them. You can directly join the inner yard, okay? Xiao Bei raised one of her feet to show the soles of her shoes. Her eyes were smiling like crescent moons as she asked. This is not necessary. I'll apply to join after I learn more skills. When I get to Hangzhou, I'll be separated from you. I really don't want to leave. How could Hu Liang tell her his family? He pretended to be very regretful, but he refused. Xiao Bei smiled indifferently. I don't want to leave you either, so you have to go to Jiang district with me. You can't stay in Hangzhou. Actually, we already know where your family is. Your father's surname is not Hu. Don't underestimate our family's intelligence system. Maybe you can reunite with them in a few days. Thank you. You, Sai. Hu Liang's eyes suddenly widened. Then, he sighed in frustration and stopped talking. Instead, he stared at Xiao Bei. I'm going back to eat. In the future, remember to always tell yourself that as a spy or a spy, you either keep silent or nod and show agreement no matter what others say. That's the only way to qualify. Sai. I'm Dudu Qiubai. Eat slowly. You can eat whatever you want while you're in Jiang district. There are also various games for you to play. Don't feel burdened. Cherish the peaceful time. Xiao Bei said something to Hu Liang and then silently floated away. Hu Liang fell silent again and lowered his head to eat. He didn't need to ask at all. Just based on his reaction just now, the other party knew a lot of things. The first was that he still had other people. The second was that he cared about his family. The third was that his surname was fake. From the other party's words, he could also understand what the other party meant. He couldn't spread the news. The other party had made it very clear that he knew that he didn't have good intentions. At the same time, he didn't care about what he could do. He might even make use of him. After he finished eating, The inner courtyard opposite him put down his chopsticks at the same time and said, "Young Master Hu, come here. You can play games now. There are classic Monopoly games and sandbox games for commanding. If you don't want to play, you can play billiards, mahjong, poker, and so on." Hu Liang nodded and walked out of the restaurant with the inner courtyard. He turned his head and asked, "Will I die?" The inner courtyard shook his head. "I don't know. I only know that you won't die now. Wait until Jiang District. Didn't you already think about dying on the ship when you came?" Hu Liang nodded and then suddenly shook his head. "When I came here, I thought that I would have a chance to go back alive. The success rate was very high. Who would have thought that you guys are different from what I thought? It's okay. Maybe Xiao Bei and the others will be happy and let you go. You're just a pawn. It doesn't matter whether we kill you or not. It won't affect us." The inner courtyard comforted Hu Liang again. The two of them walked and talked in low voices. If people who didn't know the details saw them, they would think that the two of them were not enemies but close friends. Old Man Wong finished his meal in advance. He was old and slept less, but he slept more often. He liked to go to bed early and then get up early. After eating, he would find a place to stroll around and talk to people of similar status. When he was in Hangzhou, he usually chatted with the local provincial governor and the people of the various departments. After all, the identity of his master was not ordinary. Although the emperor had somewhat alienated him and sent his master out of the capital, the position of provincial governor was still there. In addition to such an official, he could only find the local big families. Usually, he would do business with them, so there were not many people he could talk to. He was not like Xiao Bei, who could chat with people regardless of their status. Xiao Bei had a good brother and sister. He didn't need to care about what promises he made with others and couldn't fulfill them. It was the same today. He wanted to find the technicians on the ship or those who specialized in learning to chat. When he turned his head, he saw Hu Liang with the people of the inner courtyard. They were talking and laughing as they walked toward the entertainment room. He was stunned for a moment. He raised his hand to call a maid and asked, "How are you going to deal with Hu Liang? I think he looks good today. Did you reach an agreement with him?" The maid didn't have much defense against Old Man Wong. She replied, "He didn't sleep well last night. He forced himself to stay awake. He will probably fall asleep when he plays the game later. We can't have any agreement with him. We don't kill him now because he is still useful. When he's no longer useful, we'll have to see what young Master Xiaobao and young Lady Cuckoo want to do. I reckon that the two of them won't kill Hu Liang. Instead, they'll give him a new identity and train him so that he can continue doing what he's doing now." Old Man Wong thought for a while and understood. If Hu Liang was kept alive, others would feel uncertain. Especially when they saw that Hu Liang was treated well on the ship, they would think that he had betrayed the organization in exchange for benefits. And Hu Liang couldn't commit suicide himself. He must find a chance to spread the news. This was the time for the two sides to compete with wisdom and courage to see who would be better. I will also go to the entertainment room to have a look. Unfortunately, I can't play gateball. When I was in Hangzhou, I had nothing to do, so I played gateball. But I can only play it once every 10 days. Everyone else is busy. Old Man Wong walked in the direction of the entertainment room as he spoke. The maid thought for a while and said, "Steward Wong, you shouldn't go to the entertainment room now. You should go to the infirmary. Yesterday, when young Master Xiao Bao sent the news, he said that you should go to the infirmary to have a look. Then you can be nursed back to health. You can't eat 3 meals a day now. You have to eat at least 4 meals a day. You must have snacks a few times in between. You have to eat less every meal and eat more every day. You have to follow special procedures to maintain your health. I am already so old, and I have seen Xiao Bei and the others. Even if I die tomorrow, I will be satisfied. Xiao Bei is so smart. I don't know how to teach him. Xiao Hai is also good. He has the style of a master in the family, especially since he usually doesn't talk. I think he will be better than Xiao Bao in the future. Old man Wang still walked in the direction of the entertainment room. He looked stubborn. The maid didn't stop him, but followed him. She said as she walked, "Yes, if I had a younger brother and sister like him, I would have no regrets if I died tomorrow. But if I could live, wouldn't it be better? The longer I live, the longer I can take care of them. If they cause trouble outside, I can also help. Our family designed a life with rules. It's not a rigid rule, but a very flexible one. Ordinary people can't enjoy it. In the imperial court, people below the 5th rank and under the age of 60 are definitely not given a hand." Old man Wang stopped walking at this time. He stood there and thought for a while. Then he asked, "Where is the infirmary?" "Xiao Bao. Cuckoo, where is she? This emperor has a good idea to tell you. Where is she?" While Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan ran to the observation deck to enjoy the scenery, Li Longji ran into their room and walked around. After coming out, he stood below the observation deck and shouted, "Let's go down. I don't know what he's thinking of again. Can't he see that the two of us are enjoying some alone time here?" When Zhang Xiaobao heard the voice, he looked down and saw Li Longji looking up. Opposite him, Wang Wan said with a smile, "I guess it's about the people's livelihood. He's recently become addicted to this kind of thing. He always wants to achieve communism one step at a time, communism under the control of imperial power." Wang Wan said as she climbed down. As soon as the two of them came down, Li Longji began to complain, "Look at the two of you. Why didn't you tell me that you were going up there? You made it difficult for me to find you. If you want to go somewhere in the future, you should tell your Majesty first. Or, you should send someone to wait for your Majesty at the entrance so that your Majesty doesn't have to ask twice." Zhang Xiaobao didn't believe that Li Longji would spend a long time searching. Basically, he would know where he and Cuckoo were the moment he asked the second person. Sure, it's not that troublesome. Xiaobao, what did I think of?" Li Longji seemed very excited, as if he had a good idea waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to ask. Zhang Xiaobao played along and asked, "Your Majesty, what good idea did you think of this time? Quick, tell this subject. Next time you have to be more professional when you pretend. Just by looking at your expression, I can tell that you don't mean what you say. However, this time, this emperor really did think of a good idea. It's an idea that can help the people in need when the rich people in the village are too busy." Li Longji didn't lose interest because of Zhang Xiaobao's perfunctory words. He waved his arm and looked like he was giving advice. Zhang Xiaobao didn't respond to Li Longji's words. Instead, he looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan and Wei Wei nodded and said, "Your Majesty, did you think of this idea? If a village needs help, for example, if there's a family that doesn't have enough manpower, other than the old and young, you can ask the other villagers to help. When the time comes, you will give them a certain amount of benefits, such as reputation or worthless awards. Isn't it similar to how merchants sponsor schools?" Ah! Wang Wan's words shocked Li Longji. He asked in confusion, "Cuckoo, how did you know? Didn't you and Xiao Bao always say that when building a material civilization, we can't forget about building a spiritual civilization? Otherwise, once there's a deviation, it'll be very difficult to change it back. It'll take years, decades, or even decades to hundreds of years before the people can regain their confidence." This emperor thought that when it comes to the spiritual side, which is also the moral side, we naturally have to start from the most basic social structure. A village is just right. What do you all think? After saying that, Li Longji stared at Zhang Xiaobao, afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would say something against his idea. This was how interesting the world was. The more one was afraid of something, the more likely it would happen. If it was someone else, they might say something against their will to please Li Longji. However, Zhang Xiaobao definitely didn't care about Li Longji's feelings, especially when it came to the people's livelihood. After hearing Li Longji's words, Zhang Xiaobao didn't consider Li Longji's feelings at all. He directly said, "Actually, after this year, I'm thinking of taking over the matter of merchants sponsoring schools so that the merchants don't have to continue investing. The funds required for the schools will all be taken care of by Your Majesty's money in the bank." Honestly speaking, the amount of money invested in the children isn't too much, and our great Tang can still bear it. Great Tang needs the people to have a conscience and guide them to a better direction, but it doesn't mean that we should push the responsibility to the people. The people have already paid the taxes, so why should we make them pay more? That only shows that the people in charge are incompetent. Zhang Xiaobao's blunt words made Li Longji feel very uncomfortable. If it was anyone else, he would have already chased them away or flung his sleeves and left. But facing Zhang Xiaobao, he couldn't do so. He knew that getting angry at Xiaobao and Cuckoo was useless. The losses outweighed the gains, and it would only make him seem petty. Xiaobao, Cuckoo, the two of you are the people we trust the most. Since these words came from Xiaobao's mouth, I believe that you should have a good idea. Share it with us. Li Longji cleverly pushed the question to Zhang Xiaobao, but who would have thought that Zhang Xiaobao would look at Wang Wan once more? Wang Wan could only continue the conversation. In truth, it's very simple. If your Majesty wants the people to do something, don't give them any rewards. Let them feel that when they do something good, they aren't doing it for the sake of other people's appreciation. The rewards don't need to be material, and even the spiritual rewards from the court are dispensable. When they do something, they think more about their own conscience. If they want to do something, they will do it. Just like me and Xiao Bao, we don't need your Majesty's praise, and we don't care if your Majesty is angry or not. We just want to speak frankly. Because our hearts are open, we do things that are worthy of our conscience. If we want to do something, we will do it. It's just like how Xiao Bei gave lollipops to Big Man and Little Man. Li Longji nodded, indicating for Wang Wan to continue. In his heart, however, he thought angrily, you don't care because you treat the great Tang as your own. In your eyes, I, the Emperor, am just a symbol that helps you maintain your status. When he thought of this, Li Longji didn't need Wang Wan to explain. He immediately understood and said, we understand. What we want to do isn't to reward, but to let the people of the Great Tang treat the Great Tang as their own. Then, we won't care about anything. Zhang Xiaobao was very satisfied with Li Longji's ability to think things through so quickly. Seeing that Li Longji couldn't think of a solution at the moment, he said to him, what your Majesty needs to do now is to set up donation boxes in various places and then set up different funds. Anyone who wants to help others can take the initiative to put the amount of money they think they can afford into the boxes. This way, it won't be a reward or a forced action. The donation boxes don't need any locks, and they have to be made of glass. Everyone can see the money in the boxes and can take it out at any time. When faced with this kind of temptation, the people of the Great Tang would rather find work to earn a living. They would rather eat simple food than secretly take money. When that day comes, the Great Tang will be invincible in the world. When the test of human nature is over, that will be the happiest moment of the soul. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he thought of the abnormal days he and Cuckoo had 100 years ago. Although many people criticized them in that era, they had indeed done these two things. Even if a father secretly put a grain of sand in the useless books and papers sold so that his child could go to school, his child would still report it. At that time, the lives of the people weren't rich, and in some places, a person only had 3 grams of oil a month. However, it was precisely in that deformed era that people would help each other. It was also under the support of that kind of spirit that they fought one classic battle after another. Using the worst weapons to fight against the most advanced weapons, when the horn of charge didn't stop, the horn of charge wouldn't stop. Unfortunately, a deformity was a deformity, and the development of society was too slow. When it developed faster, that spirit was gone. That was an era that made people feel helpless, but also an era that made people reluctant to part with. As he thought of this, Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan. Wang Wan could be said to have a tacit understanding of this. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to clamor about using cold weapons to fight against the other party's hot weapons. It was because there was a word called spirit, and there was a kind of attitude that was fearless. Those days were truly worth reminiscing about. The world was vast, and how many heroes had led the city to set up camp. But at that time, who dared to call themselves the world's #1 army in the face of a charging army blowing trumpets? Wang Wan smiled, a smile of pride unique to soldiers. Following Zhang Xiaobao's words, she said, "This matter can be said to be difficult, but it can also be said to be simple. I can guarantee that wherever I and Xiao Bao have family members who have been officials, the people there will very consciously abide by this rule that isn't a rule. If there is good from above, then the people below will follow. Xiao Bao and I have already set an example. That is, when facing the lives of the people, when there are people who doubt us, as officials, we can have a clear conscience. When facing the development of business, we can be firm and unyielding. If your Majesty wants to do this, then you should also set an example. Invest the first copper coin, make the first declaration. I believe that at the very least, those people who have been depositing money in the Tang Bank 2 days ago will follow suit and take the initiative to supervise." Li Longji listened and thought. For a moment, he seemed to enter a dreamlike world. Faintly he said, "Is it like that, ha 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 mirror flower fate, that you told Xiaobei and the others about?" Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "In this world, there is no such thing as a gentleman. There are only trade-offs. If you invest in one aspect, you will inevitably be rewarded in another aspect. Take me and Cuckoo for example. In truth, everything we invest in is not in the pursuit of material goods. Although we make a lot of money, the purpose of making money is so that we can support the things we pursue. We don't have high requirements for material goods, at least according to the amount of money we earn. We only do it for the pure land in our hearts. The meaning of our lives lies in this. Thus, we will not allow others to sully this land. Otherwise, we will use blood to wash it away." Li Longji nodded. He had to admit that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were true to their words. Anyone who dared to touch their bottom line was truly tired of living. Their hands were stained with blood, but in the eyes of the people of the Great Tang, they were clean and pure. Those whose hearts were for the people were revered by the people. After thinking about the two's words, Li Longji nodded. "We understand. We will think of a way to satisfy the needs of the people in terms of survival. Then, we will make the people feel that survival is not the only thing. There are still many things that they need to do. Their purpose in life is definitely not to eat and wear. Then what should we do now? Immediately have people place glass boxes in the various villages? And then explain the use of these boxes? That won't do. If we really do that, the people will be worried that their money will be stolen. The current situation is actually not bad. At the very least, the trust of the imperial court is still there. The people are willing to trust the imperial court, and they are even more willing to trust us. The first thing we need to do is to strengthen this trust. At the same time, we need to strike at those with unstable minds. When everything has become a habit of life, why would we need to use glass boxes to store donations?" Zhang Xiaobao was very glad that the imperial court was still able to control the people, and the people were also willing to trust the imperial court. If a certain fund or association was established, the people would be able to release Qian Wan without worry. They wouldn't have to worry about people being greedy. This was because they knew that the imperial court would constantly send out inspectors to supervise and control each other. They knew that telegrams could be sent directly to the capital. If they found that some officials were unqualified and took away their donated money, the imperial court wouldn't just ignore them if they sent a telegram. This was especially so for himself, Cuckoo, and Xiao Bei. The imperial court had zero tolerance for corrupt officials. It could even be said that if an official was caught by Xiao Bei and the others, even if they didn't die, they would at least lose a layer of skin. This was an era where even the aristocratic families had to consider ethics and morality when doing things. This was because Li Longji, the emperor, didn't say that regardless of whether the underworld was right or wrong, as long as they could get money, they would be good people. Li Longji didn't know what Zhang Xiaobao was thinking. Looking at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan giggling at each other, he asked gloomily, "In other words, we can't realize our idea right now, right? There's no place to put the boxes to receive donations, and we can't monitor them. Is that right?" "There's a place. There's definitely a place. I thought of a good place. Xiao Bei and the others set up a chain of 4,000 candy houses. Why don't we put them there? When someone goes to spend money, they can put the change into the donation boxes. I believe that no one will dare to touch the unlocked boxes, and no one will suspect that Xiao Bei and the others didn't use the money on related matters. If your majesty feels that the number is not enough, we can also put donation boxes in all of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's shops. When the people are relieved and get used to it, we can find the top 100 merchants on the list of top billionaires and ask them to put the boxes in their shops. Zhang Xiaobao didn't need to think too much about it and immediately said where the donation boxes should be placed. When Li Longji heard this, he nodded repeatedly. Yes, there's a place. So Xiao Bei and the others' candy houses can be used like this. Doesn't that mean that in the future, we can use them anywhere that is similar? Li Longji was happy. He believed that once this matter started, it would definitely achieve good results. When the time came, he would let 100 capable merchants take charge of this matter. Those merchants would definitely not take the risk for a small amount of money. It was not an exaggeration to say that merchants who could enter the list of top billionaires were making a lot of money every day. After the donations were distributed, no matter how much money their shops could receive, it would not be enough for them to take the risk of being greedy. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and then said, not only do we have to do this in the Tang Empire, we also have to help people from other countries. When the time is right, we will use righteousness to pressure other countries. Even if their country's productivity is not good and their national treasury's income is not enough, we will use this banner to promote them. If they donate to us, we will use it. A portion will be directly used to improve their people's lives, and the other portion will be used to support their political opponents. If they think that they are smart and set up such a donation box, we will secretly investigate them. I believe that in a situation where their productivity is not high enough and their education cannot keep up, there will definitely be people who will use this money for other purposes. We will do our best to publicize this matter and criticize them. Then, we will encourage their people to rebel. This way, when we attack them again, their people will support us and think that we represent justice. When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he unknowingly broke out in a cold sweat. This Xiaobao was really too evil. As long as there was a resource that could be used, he would use it to harm others. However, this was also what he liked, so he nodded and said, then let's start with Xiao Bei and the others' candy houses. We hope that one day, wherever the Tang Empires will goes, the local people will overthrow their government and then welcome the Tang Empire's dragon grace. While Xiao Bei and the group of children were still learning, they received a telegram from their emperor uncle. Xiao Bei was the first to take it and read it to the others. Then she said, look, this is how Uncle Emperor trusts us. Tell the people who are building the candy houses in various places to work hard to speed up and strengthen the supervision. I want to see who dares to touch that sum of money. Xiao Bei appeared very excited as she spoke. Her eyes swept across the faces of her brothers and sisters, hoping to get approval. However, her brothers and sisters all frowned. Xiao Yuan asked, then where should this sum of money be placed? If it is placed in a bank, who will be responsible for the interest? How do we explain it to the people who took out the money? Interest. The interest will be used as labor costs. We have to arrange for people to withdraw the money, calculate it, and then help to send the money to the people who need it. This is all a cost, and when the time comes, we will use the interest to settle the bill. If anyone objects, let them handle it personally and see if they want to be paid. Isn't that right? Even if we don't want the money ourselves, for example, if we want to buy food for the people who need it, won't the transportation cost be added to this? Then it's about how to spend the money. We have to settle the accounts once a month and post it on a notice to let others know that we didn't get any benefits from it. Is that okay? Xiao Bei circled around this matter. In this short period of time, she had already thought of many things. However, Xiao Yuan still shook her head. But if we do as you say, the prices of the various items in each place are different. The transportation costs are also different. Some are transported by land, while others are transported by water. How are you going to make the people believe that the cost of the place you mentioned is that high? Xiao Bei was taken aback. Then, she said, our existence is a guarantee. Would anyone doubt us? If I were really greedy for money, why would I take out my own money to help others? Anyone who objects to us has bad intentions. You mean to say that we are not allowed to have different opinions? Xiao Yuan continued to pour cold water on her. We are allowed to have different opinions. For example, some people praise us and say that Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan are great. This is one kind of opinion, but it can also be another. They say that if we don't believe Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan, who else can we believe? Another saying is that if we have to find a faction that we are not afraid of, it will definitely be Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan. At the same time, it can also be, Xiao Bei, stop. Why do I hear you saying all the same thing? We can't be so shameless, okay? Xiao Yuan was speechless when he heard Xiao Bei say the same thing in different words. He hurriedly interrupted Xiao Bei and asked, "What's the matter?" "Ah, you can't always praise? That's easy. Let's have a meeting and say what you think." "That's good." Xiao Bei really couldn't think of any good ideas, so she used the most common method, a meeting. While Xiao Bei and the others were having a meeting, Hu Liang heard about the donation box from the people in the inner court. He couldn't imagine Zhang Xiaobao's goal, but when he heard about this matter, his eyes lit up and he thought about his own organization. Thus, he didn't rest well during the day, and when night came, he couldn't sleep again. This time, no one disturbed him, although the voices next door were still there. He was excited. He thought that he could use the great Tang's current policy to help his side gain more benefits. While he was too excited to sleep, Hu Liang was troubled again. He realized that he was still on the boat, and this plan was about to be used by the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang clan. If he couldn't follow suit, he wouldn't have a chance to enter this industry when the time came. That was money. If a person was given 1 copper coin a day, with so many people in the Great Tang, they would receive more than 10,000 strings of coins a day. It was definitely not a small amount. He believed that even those on the top rankings would be tempted. But this money had a limit. If he couldn't immediately spread the news, the organization would miss a good opportunity. With this thought, Hu Liang couldn't sleep. Chapter 1048. While Hu Liang was tossing and turning, unable to sleep, there was also a group of people on the bank of the canal who were very restless. After they got on the boat from Hu Liang, they began to follow the boat. They walked on land and along the river. The boat went with the current. When the weather was good, the sails would be raised. Not only was it easy, but it was also fast. However, the people they were following were riding horses. People could persist for a long time without eating, or eat and drink on the back of a horse. If their riding skills were good enough, sleeping on the back of a horse was not a problem. But as horses, they couldn't bear it. Standing up to sleep and constantly rushing were two different things. After running with the ship for an entire day, the horses only rested for half an hour. When night came, the horses clearly could not bear it. There was a small group of 7 people. On the surface, they looked like merchants. There were horses and carriages. It was difficult for outsiders to see what was in the carriages, as they were covered with cloth. After half a month of climbing, there was finally a horse that couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't very fast, but it didn't have much rest. It fell down with a boom, and after that, it couldn't get up anymore. "No, we can't continue. Otherwise, the horse will die of exhaustion, and we will not be well." A person who had just been riding a horse was now lying on the ground. It was much warmer here than in the capital. Not only were the weeds on the riverbank showing 2 inches of their bodies, even the nearby trees had sprouted new buds. The person who spoke just happened to be lying on the grass. A lot of the grass was pressed down, and he was panting. It was unknown whether it was because he was tired from riding the horse or because he had just fallen. "Third brother, it's a sunny day today. You should get up quickly to avoid catching a cold. Eighth brother is really too much." He said that when he got on the boat, he would think of a way to ask for information and then send it to us. Now, I see him playing with others on the deck, but there is no news at all. I really don't know what he is thinking. Another person said to the person lying on the grass. The person who was lying down propped up his upper body with his arm and looked at the brightly lit fleet that was still rapidly moving downstream. He said, "Fifth brother, I think eighth brother has his own difficulties. Didn't he already tell us before he boarded the ship? He said that if he can't send a message, it means that he's in a bad situation. He asked us to be very, very, very careful. It's best if we can take turns to follow him so that we won't be targeted. At the same time, we can't send a telegram. Let's wait and see if eighth brother still doesn't send us a message tomorrow. If he does, it means that eighth brother is in great danger. Wait, I also want to wait. The problem is whether the person who sent us here is willing to wait. When the time comes, we will not be able to complete the mission and will be punished when we return. The one who was called fifth brother by the person lying on the ground was not very happy. Seeing that he could not catch up, he could only grit his teeth and squeeze out the words from his mouth. Another person followed his words and said, "Fifth brother is right. Eighth brother is not so smart that he can do things perfectly. Maybe he really forgot. We should send the message back as soon as possible. Sometimes, the more dangerous it is, the safer it is. If we don't send the message now and delay the mission, we can't afford to be punished. I agree to send a telegram." What about the others? A person who had not spoken glanced at the remaining 6 people and asked, "I agree, I disagree, I also agree." The other 6 people said in unison. At last, 3 people agreed to send a telegram and 3 opposed. Everything fell back to the person who asked. The person paused for a moment and said, "Well, in this case, I also agree to send a telegram." Eighth brother is a coward. He said that the telegram we sent would be easily intercepted. After all, we are using the Tang Empire's information transmission method. They will definitely strengthen the defense and inspection of every telegram. In the current situation, there is a big possibility that we will be exposed, but I think it is impossible. When we send a telegram, we don't use words that are very obvious at first glance. We send the telegram specifically to other places to send the price of various grains, meat, and other products. The people in charge of inspection will not judge whether we are doing bad things behind the scenes every time according to the price we send out. I agree with eldest brother's suggestion. It is better to send a telegram than to be unable to keep up with the speed of the other party. Whether eighth brother has encountered a problem or he has forgotten to contact us, we must report it truthfully. Fifth brother, who had just spoken, agreed. Third brother looked at second brother and saw that second brother was indifferent. He sighed and said, 4 votes against 3. In this case, let's find a place to send the telegram. Second brother, who had not spoken, suggested, if we are going to send a telegram, we should first buy more goods so that people will know that we are real merchants and not spies. After coming to a decision, the 7 of them didn't mind. It was still night, so they walked along the road, knocking on people's houses. Especially in places like the small shops, they spent more money than usual to buy things that people cultivated and grew. This made the goods in the caravan even more abundant. Then, without waiting for dawn, they immediately found the nearest place where they could send a telegram. Usually, the place where they could send a telegram did not rest for 24 hours. Unless there was a special situation, if someone was in a hurry, it was very likely that they would not be able to send the message in time. When the telegram sounded, the 7 of them could no longer see Xiaobei and the others' fleet that was going south along the canal. The 7 of them did not rest but sent a telegram, causing Zhang Xiaobao and the others to be unable to have a good rest. Seeing that it was already midnight, Zhang Xiaobao, who was sleeping soundly with Wang Wan in his arms, was woken up by the movement outside the cabin. He casually put on his clothes and opened the cabin door. He saw the people from the inner courtyard standing at the door waiting, looking a little anxious. "Young master, we have found Hu Liang's accomplices. They sent a report of the price of vegetables to Jiang district an hour ago tonight. Take a look." The inner courtyard said and handed the report to Zhang Xiaobao. After taking a look, Zhang Xiaobao revealed a disdainful smile. He nodded to the people from the inner courtyard and said, "Continue to keep an eye on them. They dare to play this trick with us. They really underestimate us. When they continue to send telegrams, you guys collect them and compare them a few more times. Try your best to decipher the key algorithm." "Yes." The person from the inner courtyard replied and turned to trot away. "Xiaobao, what's wrong? Did they send a secret message? Wang Wan also woke up and asked while rubbing her eyes. They did. It's a good idea to report the price of vegetables to other places, but it's a little stupid. Where do you think rice can be sold for 7 copper coins per kilogram? This is clearly a corresponding code with a high number. Now that the people in Jiang district have followed, none of them can escape. Even if we can't decipher it, we can follow the clues and find the other party's secret telegram. Zhang Xiaobao shook the telegram in his hand twice and said to Wang Wan. Wang Wan lay down again after hearing this and muttered, "There's no hurry. It's impossible for Jiang district to send a price report to the other party tonight. There are still a few hours to arrange. Even if the other party finds something wrong from the telegram, they won't have a chance to run away. Let's sleep." Xiao Bei naturally also received the information. After listening to the analysis of the person in charge of this matter, Xiao Bei hugged the information and slept well. At dawn the next day, when Hu Liang was about to freshen up again and go to eat, the person from the inner courtyard who led the way yesterday came over with a piece of paper in his hand and said to Hu Liang, "Young Master Hu, last night, we received a telegram from someone else. Oh, it's an interception. The content is a price list for vegetables, fruits, grains, and other things. We didn't notice it at first, but 7 copper coins per kilogram of rice is really too expensive. It's more than 3 times the normal price of rice. Some of us joked that the person who sent the telegram was crazy. Where could they find such expensive rice in the thousands of miles north and south of the river? If you don't believe me, take a look. Isn't it interesting?" While they were talking, the person from the inner courtyard handed the telegram over. Hu Liang didn't have time to read the contents of the telegram. He only listened to the words of the inner courtyard. In an instant, it was as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. All the pores on his body opened up, and he felt cold all over. He took the telegram in a daze and looked at the content on it. Hu Liang exhaled softly and slowly closed his eyes. After a while, he opened them again and asked, "How did you find out?" "We have a group of people who are in charge of figuring out encryption and decryption. The method you used is too simple. We don't have to spend as much effort as you when we send messages. This time, we directly send groups of numbers or letters and then restore them. Tell me, what's the content of the telegram sent by the 5 of them? I believe you know that no matter who receives the telegram in Jiang district, they can't escape our surveillance. We'll give you a chance to make a contribution. If we're satisfied with your answer, you can still see your family." The person from the inner courtyard explained a little. He watched Hu Liang's expression and asked. Hu Liang nodded dejectedly and asked, "Can you guarantee that you'll let me go? That I can still live a normal life? As long as your answer is useful to us, nothing is impossible." The person from the inner courtyard made an uncertain promise. "Okay, I'll tell you. The content is that they found out that my operation failed. They told the people in Jiang district not to act rashly. It's best to endure for a while. When Xiaobei goes there, don't make any reaction. Hide in the dark and don't be exposed. However, I reckon that the people of Jiang province might not completely listen to the 5 of them. They will still send out men of sacrifice to assassinate Xiaobei instead of not leaving any traces behind. As for the rest, I can't guess. Unless you can provide me with new information, I can help you analyze it." Hu Liang looked like he had lost his fighting spirit. After he finished speaking, he squatted there and looked at the tiny gap between the deck and the wood. He was in a daze. The person from the inner courtyard nodded and said to him, "Okay, I'll report it truthfully. As long as you sincerely repent, you'll still have a new life." After he finished speaking, the person from the inner courtyard left. A few other people were responsible for protecting Hu Liang and preventing any danger from happening to him. The person from the inner courtyard who got the information found Xiaobei and the others again. He shook his head and said, "He still didn't tell the truth. I said that they had 5 accomplices, so he followed my words. It seems that the management of this organization is very strict. Even if we found the person who received the information in Jiang district, we couldn't find their roots. Also, I judged that they didn't know that we were going to Jiang District. If there was an ambush, it would probably be in Hangzhou. Otherwise, Hu Liang wouldn't have emphasized the assassination in Jiang District. He got the information from the maids in our inner courtyard yesterday and the night before yesterday. Xiao Bei and the 9 children looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Xiao Bei said, "It's fun. It seems that Hu Liang is not an ordinary person. Tell brother and sister. We'll speed up and not give them too much time to react." After this incident, Xiao Bei's fleet suddenly sped up. Hu Liang was no longer able to obtain any useful information from the servant girl next door. As a result, on the 3rd night after he was on the ship, he once again suffered from insomnia. 3 days passed by as the wind blew and the clouds moved. In Jiang District, as analyzed, the person who received the information did not immediately contact others. It was a woman. To be precise, it was an old woman. She had 2 houses and a small courtyard where she had just sowed seeds. The person who received the telegram was her. At the same time, she added that she should pass it to her son. However, the intelligence personnel of the Zhang family and the Wang family could not find out her real identity, let alone where her son was. The only record was the local government's household registration. Her surname was also Hu. She had 3 sons, Hu De, Hu Er, and Hu San. However, the household registration could not record anything in her family. Therefore, it was difficult to figure out whether her son existed or where he was. For the past 3 days, the old woman surnamed Hu lived a very regular life. In the morning, when the sun was about to rise, she would get up and go outside to get a bucket of water from the well to freshen up. Then, she would go outside to eat a bowl of noodles in the pastry shop. After that, she would slowly walk by the local river. At noon, she would go to another restaurant to eat wontons. In the afternoon, she would continue to walk by the river. In the evening, she would randomly find a stall selling food on the street and buy 2 steamed buns. When she returned home, she would eat the pickles she made herself. And so, there was not the slightest change. The people monitoring her did not see anyone visit her, and she never spoke much to others. The only time they could hear her talking was when she was strolling by the river. When she was tired of walking, she sat there leaning against a big tree, muttering words that could not be heard clearly as she looked at the flowing river. This news quickly spread to Zhang Xiaobao's ship. After Li Longji saw it, he was confused and asked, "Xiaobao, did you target the wrong person?" Zhang Xiaobao chuckled and replied, "If she is not like this, then it is possible that we are targeting the wrong person. She is too regular, so it is not normal." "Cuckoo, are you familiar with her?" "Yes." When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's question, she nodded and said, "Order, send someone to watch that tree. At night, secretly go and take a look, but do not make any noise. Also, keep an eye on the surrounding houses." Chapter 1049. There's someone on the tree? Li Longji raised his head and looked at the canopy of the cabin. It seemed like there was someone on the canopy as well. The result gave him quite a fright. It wasn't that there were people up there, but that there were many people. The cabin he was in was the 3rd floor. The ship had a total of 4 floors. Above the 4th floor was a small attic. Just like Xiaobei's ship, Xiaobei always liked to go into the attic and climb up the stairs in the attic to get a pile of snacks. She would learn from adults to enjoy the scenery and have fun. There were at least 6 openings in the ceiling of the 3rd floor. There was a person peeking out from each of the openings. Looking at their posture, it seemed like they could jump down at any time. Li Longji glanced at the 6 people and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, "Is there a need to be so strict? Looking at the situation, there really is someone on the tree. It's good that it's strict. I don't want to die from an assassination. I've always been afraid of death. There are many people who want to kill me. When Cuckoo and I were in Zhuangzi, what we liked to do the most was to dig tunnels, build walls, and use visual errors to create dark rooms. There was also..." Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment and picked up a dried fruit from the table. He shook his hand and threw it out. It hit a wooden pillar in the middle of the cabin and said, "Come out and meet me." With a creak, a door suddenly appeared on the pillar. It was pushed open from the inside and two people walked out, one in front and one behind. Li Longji stood up and stretched out his hand to push the two people apart. He peeked his head in to take a closer look and said, "Narrow, so narrow. When I am at night, won't I be very safe? Isn't that right, Xiaobao?" "Your Majesty, look carefully. These two people are under the control of my adoptive father. When you are at night, you will not be affected at all. Just like in the palace, the skylight will be closed at night." Zhang Xiaobao explained to Li Longji. Only then did Li Longji set his gaze on the two people who had come out. With just one look, he knew that Zhang Xiaobao was right. He asked the two people, "Why can't I see you?" Replying to your Majesty, there are rope ladders on the pillars that lead upwards. They rotate every hour to ensure a high degree of concentration, a young eunuch replied. Li Longji entered the space between the pillars, stood up, and said to the two eunuchs, "Thank you for your hard work." The two of them shook their heads vigorously in fear and trepidation. For a moment, they couldn't say anything. It was the person who spoke first who was a little braver. He said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, this is what we should do. If we were not taken in by the palace, we would definitely be looked down upon by others outside." The other eunuch also nodded vigorously. Li Longji patted the eunuch's shoulder and said, "When medical technology becomes more advanced in the future, perhaps people with the same illness as you won't need to enter the palace. At that time, the harem will probably be filled with palace maids." As Li Longji spoke, he glanced at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. His meaning was clear. He knew that the new eunuchs in the palace were all people who were born with defects. There were big ones and small ones. The big ones were discovered later, and the small ones were taken in when they were young. Ever since Xiao Bao and Cuckoo became the registrar and deputy county magistrate, they began to oppose castrating normal people. They were willing to spend a lot of manpower and resources to find people with congenital defects all over the Great Tang. Based on their character, they would be taken into the palace and given a fixed amount of money every month to their families. The old people were all from before, and they were also treated very well. Just the daily necessities for them and the palace maids cost the Zhang family and Wang family no less than 3,000 strings of cash every month. Thus, the palace maids and eunuchs in the palace treated the Zhang family and Wang family exceptionally well, not only because of their status and ability, but also because the eunuchs were very grateful to be able to escape the cold eyes of others. Perhaps they don't need to work as palace maids for their entire lives. After working for a few years, they might be able to play a certain role elsewhere. For example, they might be able to help manage a certain fund or manage a medical department. Their knowledge in the palace would be far greater than those outside. In the harem, we shouldn't just teach the palace maids the basics and rules. We should also teach them more knowledge in other fields. The number of palace maids in the palace should be doubled. Zhang Xiaobao followed Li Longji's words and explained the basics. Li Longji was perplexed. Since they don't need to work as palace maids for their entire lives, that means that you, Xiaobao, don't like ordering servants around. Why do you want to increase the number of palace maids? Who says that I don't like it? The purpose of doubling the number of palace maids is to reduce their working time by half. The remaining time can be used to study. When have you ever seen the inner court maids working for 8 hours in a row? Unless it's an emergency, the time they spend working adds up to 6 hours a day. Even if they want to work, I won't allow them to do so as to reduce their efficiency. The extra time for them to study is to raise their abilities. The time for them to play is to allow them to relax and maintain their optimal condition. The prerequisite is that they don't leave the main household. Otherwise, all of the talents they nurture will end up running to someone else. Zhang Xiaobao explained his intentions to Li Longji. Wang Wan added, "If it isn't the inner court, a normal wage for a craftsman is 600 copper coins a month. If someone were to bribe them with money, it would be a huge loss for the original family. That's because the wages they pay are low, but the cost of nurturing them is several times higher." "I understand. You want my harem to help the entire Great Tang nurture female management talents. That's right. No matter where they end up, they'll still be working for the Great Tang. I won't compensate you for that. Tomorrow morning, I'll issue a decree to start a new class in the harem. Li Longji readily accepted the suggestion. He didn't mind hiring more palace maids. His wealth wasn't much lower than the national treasuries, so he could afford to hire twice as many palace maids. Besides, the Zhong clan and Wang clan would have to fork out more money as well. After saying this, Li Longji suddenly recalled what he had just said and asked, Xiao Bao, Cuckoo, did the two of you say that the old woman was speaking to the people in the tree? Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Li Longji with a look that said, My Zhuangzi's thick tree is also hollow in the middle. There's an underground tunnel that connects to other places, so the tree won't die if it's hollow in the middle. In truth, their spy system isn't perfect. If it were me, I wouldn't speak while leaning against the tree. I would throw stones into the river, and the person who receives the signal would hide the net under the water. Then, they would compare the number of stones in the net. In fact, they could even go to a special place to buy things when they're strolling in the market every day. Then, they could arrange the distance and knot the knot according to different methods. To think that it's that terrifying, Li Longji exclaimed in shock. However, Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said, This isn't the scariest method of secrecy. The scariest part is that the higher-ups are only in contact with her. In other words, she doesn't know who the other party is, nor does she know when the other party will appear. According to the method I mentioned earlier, as long as we keep an eye on her and know her daily routine, we'll be able to find out who's in contact with her. The scariest method is... Cuckoo. The scariest method is that when she goes out to sell things, we'll know the way she walks, the way she arranges the goods, the order and angle of the goods, and even the quantity and price of the goods. She's able to pass information to others. The people who buy things and look at things change every day. It's impossible for us to keep an eye on all the people who pass by her stall. The only way is to capture her and torture her to get a full grasp of everything she knows. However, she doesn't know who her higher-ups are. When we torture her and waste more time than the time she's supposed to contact the higher-ups, the other party will cut her off. Even if we force her to use the same method to release information, we won't be able to catch her higher-ups. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao's hint, Wang Wan introduced another method of transmitting information to Li Longji. Li Longji was dumbfounded. In his opinion, the most suitable method of transmitting information was secret writing or transmitting information through telegrams that didn't seem to be relevant. However, he didn't expect that under the situation of a single line of communication, there were many other methods that seemed to be the most common and accurate method of transmitting information. This kind of spy is not easy to train, right? Li Longji finally found the problem. There were methods to use, but it was hard to find talented people. Yes, it's not easy to train them. At the same time, there's a high chance that they'll be discovered. Using the exhaustive method and the elimination method, we can still obtain useful information with a bit of effort. The process is a battle of wits and courage. Your Majesty, Cuckoo and I still have other matters to attend to, so we'll take our leave for now. You don't have to think too much about it. Leave the dark side to me and Cuckoo. Zhang Xiaobao had to go back to work. Just as he said, he and Wang Wan were both from this kind of background. Back then, he and Wang Wan's department were very happy to fight, and he always had the upper hand. It wasn't that the people in Wang Wan's department weren't good enough, but that there were always more loopholes in the government's functions. This was the proverb that said, those who were loyal to justice were the butchers, while those who were ruthless were the scholars. Of course, the most important thing was that the meteor squad of the Special Second Department couldn't possibly keep an eye on Zhang Xiaobao. He was just a swindler, and he had never done anything that directly harmed the people of the country. Unless the leader had nothing better to do and sent all the members of the meteor squad to specifically target Zhang Xiaobao, then he could only restrain himself, and restrain himself even more. He would hide far away and never show himself. But if that was the case, he wouldn't know what to do. Was it a confrontation? In a risky situation, to let the meteor squad shine, or to fail and be caught, no matter which one it wasn't the result he wanted. Because he felt that the meteor squad, shouldn't shine because of him, he couldn't do it. Zhang Xiaobao seemed to be reminiscing and hypothesizing. His emotions were fluctuating like Weiwei's, and he seemed a little more melancholy. "What are you thinking about?" Wang Wan nudged Zhang Xiaobao with her arm and asked. "Nothing, I was thinking about the past, and the meteor squad. Perhaps one day, when the meteor squad streaked across the night sky, I made a wish that I could find a wife that I was most satisfied with. I was so kind that I moved the heavens, moved the earth, moved the wind, and moved the snow and rain, and then I had you by my side." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he reached out his arm to hug Wang Wan. Wang Wan nimbly avoided him, ran 10 steps, and turned back. "Sappy, I like that kind of iron. You have to change in the future. Iron is usually accompanied by sadness. Sappy is the happiness that everyone wants to have. All right, according to the Sappy arrangement, I should chase after you. You should slow down and run in front. Little goat, don't run, brother wolf is coming." Zhang Xiaobao opened his arms and chased after Wang Wan. Chapter 1050. Young Master Hu, here's your steak, please. At noon, Hu Liang once again sat in the dining hall. The difference was that there was no one to serve him food. He had to go to the window to get it, just like everyone else. This was because Xiao Bei and the others also served their own plates. There were only 4 special people: the 2 matriarchs who were pregnant, and Pan Er and her sister. Hu Liang ordered the same things as Xiao Bei: a steak, a foie gras, a caviar, a glass of wine, and a plate of fruit and vegetable salad. After Hu Liang found out what Xiao Bei had chosen, he was very curious. He had been to Blue Sea Silver Sand Restaurant, Between the Clouds and the Water, and Sea Cloud Garden, which had fewer chain stores. Although he hadn't tasted every dish, he had at least seen most of them from the menu. However, he didn't know what Xiao Bei had ordered. Out of curiosity, he learned from Xiao Bei that the steak was not fully cooked, at most 90%. The person Hu Liang asked told him that Xiao Bao didn't allow his younger siblings to eat steak that was too fresh for fear of being unable to bear the smell of blood. Thus, Hu Liang thought that he could do it, so he ordered a medium rare one. When Xiao Bei saw the meat on his plate, he winked at the inner courtyard that was guiding him. He had a happy expression on his face, and the inner courtyard returned a smile. "I'll see if he can eat it. Don't blame me if it's hot, although Big Brother never said that we can't eat it because it's too bloody." Xiao Bei looked at Hu Liang's table like a thief and said to his brother and sister at the same table, "Yes, Big Brother doesn't let us eat it because he's afraid we'll burn ourselves. If we eat slowly, it won't taste good when it's cold. Otherwise, with our ability to eat raw seafood, why would we be afraid of a little bit of meat? Besides, steak isn't fishy." Xiao Yuan forked a fish and put it on his plate. He slowly cut it and talked to Xiao Bei. He didn't order a salad and wasn't used to the taste. Unless it was a special situation, he could bear to eat a few mouthfuls. How could Hu Liang know the reason behind this? He unskillfully cut off a piece of meat that looked red. Just as he stabbed it with a knife and brought it to his mouth, he suddenly leaned back and kept sucking in cold air. His voice was muffled as he muttered, "It's blistering. What the hell is this?" Using a knife and fork, it's something that our ancestors didn't use for many years. Taking it out again, it's so tiring to eat something. Young Master Hu, it's not a big deal to use a knife and fork. There's also the curry rice that can be grasped with your hands. Young Master Xiao Bao and Miss Cuckoo have taught Miss Xiao Bei and the others quite a few ways to eat. They said that they don't expect them to eat it every day, but they should at least understand it. For example, eating grassland barbecued meat with 2 knives and a single knife, or eating crabs with 8 pieces of meat. The people at the same table had ordered a bowl of shaved noodles and were slurping down their food. When they heard Hu Liang's mumbling, they stopped what they were doing and said to him. Hu Liang nodded helplessly and began to blow on the meat in front of him. Wei Wei poked her head out and looked at Xiao Bei's table. She had to admit that their education was different from others. Xiao Bei and the others ate very skillfully and quickly. They gave off a very elegant and magical feeling. Looking down at the foie gras on the plate, she asked the person sitting opposite her in confusion, "Why don't you use big foie gras? I know a way to make the liver of poultry bigger. It's nothing more than force feeding. If you force feed it with distiller's grains, it will grow bigger. Our family doesn't allow that. Feed that harms the liver is absolutely forbidden to be fed to poultry and livestock. At the same time, we can't let poultry eat too much." The person in the inner courtyard opposite Hu Liang looked at Hu Liang with disdain. After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and continued to work hard on the food. Hu Liang was silent. He imitated Xiao Bei and the others and ate bit by bit. However, his mood became complicated. He knew a lot about the Zhang family and the Wang family. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao had the best grasp of seasonings and always cooked for his family. However, he didn't use too many seasonings. If he could bring out the original taste of the ingredients, he would do so directly. If it didn't suit the taste, he would only add a little salt. Now, it was said that his culinary skills had reached the point of perfection, and his requirements for food were higher. However, such a person actually didn't allow his family to specially feed special poultry. This meant that deliberately feeding poultry was not good for the human body. Thinking of this, Hu Liang swallowed the food in his mouth with wine. He imitated Xiao Bei and wiped his mouth with a napkin in front of his chest. He asked the person in the inner courtyard opposite him who was putting meat sauce into the shaved noodles. "Your family eats good food, but after several generations of breeding poultry that produce high production of eggs and meat, don't you think it's unfair to the people of the world?" Unfair? The person in the inner courtyard was surprised. "Yes, you can't find ordinary food in your family. Even a bowl of soy milk or a bowl of porridge must be carefully selected. You say that you are for the people of the Tang Empire, but you are creating a gap in their lives. Where is your morality?" Hu Liang's voice was slightly louder, with a hint of criticism. The person in the inner courtyard scooped another spoonful of meat sauce. He was not afraid of the saltiness and directly put it in his mouth, swallowed it, and drank a mouthful of noodle soup. He narrowed his eyes comfortably and said to Hu Liang, "If my family doesn't eat like this, can the people eat it? Now is not the time to pursue quality, but quantity, so that the people can eat meat as much as possible. Of course, the young master and young lady are not allowed to use other methods to breed livestock and poultry. They are only specially bred. When the cultivation technology of the Tang Empire is better and the medical technology is more perfect, the quality of the people's lives will gradually improve. My master is not able to reach the sky in one step, so he can only come up with this plan. Besides, different varieties don't mean that the food is harmful to people. Instead of worrying about the quality of the food, it's better to think about whether they can eat it first. Then, have you considered the people of other countries? We are all people in the world, so why don't you sell your good things at a cheaper price? All you sell are luxury goods." Hu Liang continued to ask, "Forget it, you said that they are the people of other countries. What does it have to do with the Tang Empire? If the people of other countries are living a good or bad life, they can go to their emperor. If they want to live a good life, it's simple, get rid of their emperor and acknowledge that there is only one Tang Empire. You are kind. According to your words, all the people in the world are like this. Every blade of grass and every tree has a root of wisdom. Don't hurt them. In the future, you can starve and don't even breathe. Otherwise, you will kill the creatures in the air." After the person in the inner courtyard finished speaking, he did not say anything else and scooped another spoonful of meat sauce to eat. Hu Liang saw that he was not done eating the meat sauce, so he used a knife to put some into his mouth. He smacked his lips and said, "It's not too salty. What meat?" "The leftover meat from last night. It's cooked and made into meat sauce. This time, the cooked meat is the most fragrant. Don't worry and eat it. The meat that is stained with other people's saliva is all fed to the animals." Another person in the inner courtyard said, "Oh." Hu Liang was relieved and muttered, "If everyone can eat, wear warm clothes and live in a house that doesn't leak rain, how can there be wars in the world? If that's really the case, some people will have other ideas. Let's eat. We're about to reach Hongzhou." You can see your brothers. 5 people. If you say 5, then it's 5. If there are 10, then kill 5. The inner court official added one more sentence. Hu Liang suddenly lost his appetite. Cold sweat kept coming out of his pores. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. The 7 people that Hu Liang was thinking about were eating at the moment. They were caught last night. Until now, no one had brought them food. In front of each of them was a tail of bean cakes and a bowl of rice wine. They could not find anything else. The nutrition contained in a tail of bean cakes was enough for them to last for a whole day. A bowl of rice wine could not only replenish their water, but also help them to decompose their fat. For them, this treatment was already not bad. Otherwise, they would only be given a cup of white wine each. After they drank it, it would not be a problem for them to survive for a day. Then, they would be fed half a bowl of water. This way, they could live for at least half a month. But the consequence was that they would become weak and want to sleep all day. Even if they were not tied with ropes, they could not run away. Now, the treatment given to them was good. Their feet were tied together by iron chains. If one person wanted to move, he could not be far away from others. Seeing that the food was brought in, the 7 people in the cabin raised their heads almost at the same time. They looked at the person who came and put the food on the ground with hatred and turned to leave. Big brother, do you know him? Lao Wu, who was leaning against the cabin wall, glanced at the food and asked. The person who was called Big Brother shook his head. He looked at the food and sighed. He did not even want to talk. He stuck out his tongue and licked his sweet lips, but did not eat. It's troublesome if you don't know him. You can't guess which gang he is from. Even if you want to talk to him, you can't find anything to talk about. Lao Wu leaned forward. After being pulled by the iron chains on the other person's feet, he put his nose to the bowl and sniffed. Good wine, so fragrant. It's a pity that there are only bean cakes. It would be good if there were such a big piece of smoked meat. The smoked meat of the Zhang family and Wang family is naturally delicious. It's just that we don't have that luck. It's good enough that we have bean cakes and rice wine. Otherwise, what will you do if we starve for 2 more days? Lao San's feet were the closest to Lao Wu. Being pulled by the other person, he was very uncomfortable. He also leaned forward and said. Lao Wu stopped sniffing and turned his head. Using the weak light shining in from above the cabin, he carefully looked around and asked puzzledly, I've looked at this place more than 10 times. How do you know it's the Zhang family and Wang family? Other than them, who would come to catch us? Besides, we're in the cabin now. When the ventilation hole is blocked, I can't hear any other sound. This only proves that the cabin wall is thick and they used other methods. Now listen carefully. Do you hear the sound of water? I just don't know if Lao Ba is still alive. If he is, where is he? AI, the intelligence personnel of the Zhang family and Wang family are too good. I'm waiting for them. Lao San pulled the iron chains and let Lao Si beside him think. He reached out and took a piece of bean cake. He carefully touched it and said to Lao Wu. Lao Wu lowered his head and thought for a while. He finally understood and said, That guy also said that he had relatives in the palace who got chili and cooked meat for us to eat. It turns out that he put medicine in the food. That medicine has a taste, so he put it in the spicy and numbing food so that we can't taste it. When we fall, he will tie us up on the boat. Damn innkeeper, don't let me out. Otherwise, he won't be able to live another day. Ah, I'm so angry. You still want to go out? Don't shout so loudly. If someone hears you, they will block the ventilation hole. You will be stuffy and sleepy. If you are not careful, you will suffocate to death in the cabin. If you are hungry, eat 1 bite and chew slowly. Hide the rest. We don't know when the next food will be delivered. You like to drink, but you are only allowed to take a small sip. Use it like water. See if they will kill you or keep you alive. Maybe it won't be long before they come in to ask. Save your strength for the punishment. Lao San, who was not in the mood to talk just now, finally opened his mouth. He had a lot of things to think about. He looked up at the ventilation hole and shook his head helplessly. Lao Wu, who had just opened his mouth to eat the bean cake, closed it after hearing Lao San's words. He carefully stuffed the bean cake between his teeth and took a bite. He said, "It smells so good. It's so king fragrant. I've never eaten such delicious bean biscuits since I was young. Do they want to starve us? If they really want to do that, why would they send us food? They must want to scare us so that they can get useful information from us. Humph, it's not that I don't want to say it, but I don't know much. Since they can catch us, they must know who we sent the telegram to. Do they think we know more than the people on the other side?" Lao Wu's words made him seem smarter. He was not as stupid as before. Unfortunately, he was smart too late. If he was this smart before he was caught, he might be able to escape. "Big brother, what do we do now? The bowl that sent us the wine is made of wood. It will take a long time to grind a rope, let alone break the iron chain with it." A slightly feminine voice sounded. It was Lao Chi, who was leaning against the wall of the cabin next to Lao San. He was also listless, but he did not take anything to eat. As the leader, he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes and leaned against the wall. After a long time had passed, he said, "If it were me, I would have a few methods. One is to make us beg for death so that we can vent the hatred in our hearts. After all, our appearance has caused quite a bit of disturbance to them. It would be too easy for us to die quickly. They would torture us for at least 10 days to half a month, or make us unable to bear it and commit suicide. Then do we commit suicide?" Lao Wu became stupid again. "Live. As long as there is a chance, you have to live. If you die, you have nothing left. You can't see the sun tomorrow, you can't eat delicious food, and you can't even think about your wine." The big brother glared at the fifth brother and said. The fifth brother didn't see the look in the big brother's eyes. It was too dark in the cabin. He laughed and said, "Yes, I'm alive. If I run out, I can still continue to drink. This is the only thing I like to do. I can't die unless someone agrees to set up a memorial tablet for me and give me a jar of wine tomorrow." Lao Wu had already taken a sip of the wine. He had a very high opinion of this wine. Lao San shook his head again and said, "In addition to torturing us, they can also kill us directly to scare others and let our people know how powerful the Zhong family and the Wang family are. But I don't think they will do that. The most likely scenario is to raise us like we are now. They won't let us eat until we are full and have strength, but they also won't let us die. When the time is right, they will change us into new clothes and put us, who have no strength, on the deck in a conspicuous place for our people to see. Our people will see us and think that we can sit comfortably on the chairs outside because we betrayed them in exchange. Our people will adjust when they are afraid. This will make it easy for them to expose themselves. But they probably don't know that no matter how our people see us, they won't be worried. Because we have only one way to communicate with our superiors. At the same time, we don't know who is behind this." Yes, Lao San is right. "Then, that means, even if I drink all the wine, they won't watch me die. Can I continue to drink?" Lao Wu, who loved to drink, had been staring at the wine bowl since just now. Even though there was very little light coming in from the vent hole, he couldn't see clearly. "Drink, you only know how to drink. One day, you will die from drinking." Lao San reprimanded Lao Wu loudly. "I'm willing to die from drinking. It would be best if they throw me into the wine vat and drown me. I'll be a drunkard for once. When I'm down there, the King of Hell will know that I have a good tolerance for alcohol. Maybe he won't let me go into the frying pan and will make me drink with him." Lao Wu muttered in a low voice. Then he said, "It's good to die. It'll be sullen. The superiors don't let us know anything and make us work for them. Isn't it just giving us money? If we are caught, they won't come to save us." While the 7 people who were caught were feeling uncomfortable, the people who were not caught were also feeling uncomfortable. In a small river next to a village in Jiangzhou, there was a person fishing. Although the river was not big, the current was not slow. When the fishing line was inserted into the water, it was first slanted in a straight line, but then it was bent by the current. Beside the fisherman were large and small lead pendants, as well as earthworms dug out from the soil. The wind was blowing in Weiwei, and the afternoon sun was very warm. However, the fisherman's expression was somewhat anxious. There was no trace of leisure. Even so, he did not move at all. He stood by the river like a statue. He stayed there for half an hour, and the hook that was thrown into the water never came up. Another quarter of an hour passed, and the fisherman's expression became more anxious. He held the fishing rod with one hand and used the other hand to take out a piece of bread from the pocket beside him. He slowly brought it to his mouth. Just as he was about to bite it, the fishing rod suddenly moved. The movement was very large, and then it became calm again. After about 5 breaths, it moved again. After 3 times, it stopped moving. The fisherman immediately lost the mood to eat. He lowered his head and looked around. When he saw that there was no one around, he suddenly pulled the fishing rod. The pendant that he had put down earlier flew out of the water with a swishing sound. There was a twisting fish on the pendant. The fisherman reached out and caught the fish as fast as he could. He removed the hook, put away the fishing rod, and threw the fish into the bamboo basket. He did not care whether there were other bigger fish in the river and turned around to leave. After walking for about 2 li, several courtyards appeared in front of him. In front of the courtyards, there was a special house. The door was wide open, and there was an old woman in her 50s sitting at the door. She was picking vegetables, presumably waiting for dinner. When the old woman saw the fisherman, her mouth, which had lost several teeth, cracked open, revealing a smile that was not a smile. She asked, "Uncle, did you catch a big fish today?" "Sister-in-law, I caught one. Look, it's 3 catties of grass carp. When we go back home, we can make a good dish to go with wine. Help me take a look. We don't have any salt at home, so we can pack some more." The fisherman took the fish out of the bamboo basket. At this time, the fish was not completely dead. It occasionally struggled and moved a few times. Its mouth also opened and closed, as if it wanted to breathe. The old woman put down what she was doing and took the fish. She said, "I've packed it for you. You can take it back and cook it directly. You can ask Xiao Jiu for the salt yourself. It's the same price as last time." As she spoke, the old woman went into the house. The fisherman shouted to a pile of firewood next to him, "Xiao Jiu, pack some salt for me. Give me 3 catties of salt first. You only know how to set that trap of yours all day. Who has nothing better to do than to chop up your firewood?" Come, come. People buy salt by catties, but you buy it by money every time. You know that my family's small scale is not accurate, so you deliberately take advantage of me. According to your method of buying, you can buy 17 taels of salt for 1 catty of salt. You've made a profit. Next time, I want a fish. You can't just catch one every day. When you've exhausted your family's food, let's see what you'll eat in the future. As soon as the fisherman finished speaking, a young man came out from a very obvious door-like place in the firewood pile. He didn't look like he was in his 20s, but at most 16 or 17. He complained as he ran in. When he entered the door, he was slapped on the head by the fisherman. He laughed and didn't get angry. After a while, the young man gave a small bag of salt to the fisherman. At the same time he said, "Okay, my mother has already packed the fish. You go in and get it. In the future, don't say that my traps are bad. My traps are connected to a tunnel. Last time, a stray cat fell in. When I went over, I just happened to see it. Otherwise, I could have caught it and raised it to catch mice for my family. You can't even trap a cat, and you still have the face to say that your traps are good? I didn't see it. Continue with your tunnels and traps. Fish, wait until I'm in a good mood." The fisherman slapped the young man's head again, turned around, and walked back. The young man rubbed the place where he was slapped and said discontentedly, "You always have a deadpan face. I don't see you in a good mood. I've said it more than 10 times, but I haven't seen a single fish for me. When the fisherman came out of the house with the fish, the young man had already disappeared. Only the soft firewood hanging down from the firewood danced in the wind, making a rustling sound. At this time, on a small hill about 1.5 miles away from the store, 2 figures appeared. They looked at each other and nodded at the same time. One of them said, "It seems that the opponent is very difficult to deal with. He actually took so many precautions. If it weren't for the 2 of us being lucky and running into a turtle in the water to help, we really wouldn't have been able to guess how the opponent passed on the information." The other person nodded in agreement and said, "That's right. We thought that the middle of the tree was hollow, and that the person they contacted was hiding in the tree. Then, they dug a tunnel that led to the surrounding houses. In the end, after monitoring the surrounding houses, we didn't find anything. If the turtle didn't bite the person hiding in the water, we definitely would have delayed the main house's business. The tree is indeed hollow in the middle, but it's not a tunnel that leads directly to the other houses. Instead, there's a hole for people to hide in." "Is it a hole?" "It looks like it, like an ant's nest." The person who spoke earlier sighed and stared at the firewood without relaxing. He was now very impressed with the other party. There was a tunnel beside the tree that led to an underground cave that was relatively higher than the river. It was all dug out manually. At first, he and his partner weren't clear. When a person's head suddenly popped out of the river and climbed ashore in a sorry state, he used a stone to smash the neck of a turtle that was biting on his leg. Only then did he and his partner determine the general situation. Then, they waited for another day. When the mentally ill old woman who liked to lean against the tree and mumble to herself left, he and his partner waited for a while more before jumping into the water. Only then did they finally drill into the hole and confirm their initial judgment. As for the person who was bitten by the turtle, the 2 of them guessed where he would go. Yes, it was the person who fished in the lower reaches of the river every day. The person hiding in the tree should have obtained the information, written it down, and stuffed it into the stomach of a fish. Then, with a knotted bamboo, he groped in the river and placed the fish on the hook of the angler. Then, the angler took the fish to the store and cleaned it up. As for who the information was passed to, it was still unclear. Perhaps the other party had confused the angler and the information was still with the angler, or perhaps the old woman had taken it away and transferred it through other means. But now, it seemed most likely that the young man was the culprit. After observing for 2 days, he found that every day, he would pack salt for the angler and then enter the firewood pile again. It would be better if he observed for a few more days, but the main family didn't have much time to waste. He could only take the risk. Thinking like this, the person who spoke earlier said to the other person, "Feng, follow me." "Okay, you go first." "I'll follow." The person called Feng nodded and followed the first person. He took out his pistol and ran toward the firewood pile. In the end, when the 2 people were about 10 meters away from the firewood pile, the old woman who had been sitting at the entrance of the store first came out. She happened to see the 2 people running toward the firewood pile and immediately shouted, "Who are you? Are you going to steal my firewood? Someone, there's a thief. He's going to steal the firewood." When she shouted, the 2 people who were running almost exploded in anger. Who wouldn't push a cart to steal firewood? How much firewood could they steal with so much firewood? Carrying it would be tiring. At the same time, the 2 people also realized that there was something wrong with the firewood pile. Moreover, the old woman must be related to the other party. They sped up and reached the door-like place in a few steps. At the same time, they raised their guns and shot inside. After a few consecutive gunshots, they raised their legs and kicked open the wooden planks blocking the way. At this time, they didn't care if they had made a mistake. They killed a normal young man. If they really made a mistake, there was no other way. They could only ask the main family for help. When the 2 people entered, the flashlights were turned on at the same time, illuminating the place in front of them. When they saw this place, the 2 people heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't hit anyone just now. Moreover, the firewood pile was relatively spacious, about 3 to 4 square meters. This 3 to 4 square meters was empty at this time. Let alone a person, there wasn't even a bug. The ground was flat. Where are they? The person called Feng asked in surprise. Don't worry, they should be down there. Use the binoculars to look at their mouths. Didn't they say that the young man liked to set traps and dig tunnels? Then it must be true. They actually dared to say it. Let's go down and take a look. The person called you held his gun vigilantly and signaled Feng to check the ground. Feng took small steps and suddenly stopped. He said, "Here, wooden planks, ready." When the two people carefully squatted down and opened the wooden planks, the old woman outside was still shouting. Moreover, there were more than 6 people's footsteps. In addition to the sound of running, there were also inquiring shouts. It really looked like someone was stealing firewood and the neighbors were helping each other. I can see that the people in the several courtyards in this place are probably all together. How amazing! How did they get bribed? And who bought them? Feng said as he shone the flashlight down. You looked down and saw that there was a hole that was neither big nor small. If 2 people crawled into the hole together, they would definitely squeeze into the hole. One person would still have some space to spare. Seeing this situation, you gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go first. You stay behind. If you find something wrong, remember to go back alive and call more people to investigate." Understood. If something happens to you, I'll kill everyone here first. No, leave one alive. Feng turned around and pointed his gun at the entrance, ready to shoot at any time. Okay. Rain shouted a word and jumped down. After a while, Feng, who was waiting at the top, listened carefully, but he didn't hear anything else. Even the footsteps outside disappeared. He couldn't help but shout anxiously into the cave, "Rain! It's here. It's very far, about 30 meters away. There are actually 6 forks below. Don't move, I'll find a way to get out. Damn it, isn't this the situation below our village? Others have also learned it." Yu's voice reverberated from below. After hearing it, Feng didn't continue to stay there. Instead, he walked out with his gun. That's him. There's another person who wants to steal my firewood. As soon as he appeared, Feng heard the old lady's voice. He looked up and saw 9 people standing in front of him, including the old lady. Except for the old lady, the others were holding various kinds of farming tools. There were pickaxes, hoes, and forks for forking manure. They were all waiting for him, and all of them looked angry. Feng shook the gun in his hand and said, "I guess you all know me, right? Seeing this thing, you can guess my identity, right? Yes, I'm the spy of the Zhang family and the Wang family in Sanshui County. I have a special right, that is, when I'm carrying out a mission, if I suspect that someone will threaten me, I can shoot him directly without taking any responsibility. Now, I suspect that you are involved in an illegal organization that endangers the safety of the Tang Empire. I order you to put down your weapons, put your hands on your head, and lie down. If anyone dares to disobey, I'll shoot immediately. Lie down." With a puff, the 9 people, including the old lady, all lay down face down, and the weapons in their hands were all thrown away. Feng didn't relax his vigilance, because he knew that some people didn't care about their own lives, just like him. At the critical moment, they could do anything. Even an old man or a young child could become an assassin. Because he didn't move forward, he stayed beside the firewood pile. His eyes glanced back and forth between the door of the firewood pile and the 9 people. Just now, you had said that there were 6 forks below. It was very likely that the other party would come from the other forks, then suddenly run out of the firewood pile and launch an attack. The Zhang family and the Wang family in Sanshui County are unreasonable. They bully ordinary people and let people point guns at us. I don't want to live anymore. The old lady, who was lying there, turned her head, looked at Feng, and said in a voice that was neither high nor low. With a bang, the bullet hit the soil beside the old lady, splashing some dust. Then came Feng's voice. "If you speak again, I'll kill you. You only have 1 life. If you die, you will have nothing. There's no harm in telling you. I still have 1 bullet in my gun. Who wants to go first?" Hearing the old lady's words, the 3 people who wanted to get up stopped at this moment. This was also Feng's purpose. He understood what the old lady meant. She wanted them to fight to the death. I'm out. I'm finally out. Yu's voice came at this time. Feng looked over and found that you walked out of the door of another house. He asked, "What's the arrangement inside?" "I came out from under their stove. There was still a fire there. Look at my hair. The topmost part has been burnt. I didn't see the person, so he probably ran away from here. This is going to be troublesome. Let's ask them, who is the previous owner?" Rain held a gun in one hand and stroked her hair with the other. She walked over and stood beside Feng. Feng nodded and asked the 9 people lying on the ground, "Tell me, who is the master and how do we usually contact each other? Where did that brat run off to?" "I don't know what you're talking about. We're just normal people. What's the big deal? When I get my goods, it's from—" "Shut up. From now on, you're not allowed to make a sound. Are you trying to trick a fool? Dutiful family? Which dutiful family would build an underground tunnel that extended in all directions?" Yes, it's you. Tell me, who's the previous owner?" Feng shouted at the old lady. Then, he set his eyes on a person whose body was trembling like Wei Wei. This person would probably be able to find a breakthrough and would only tremble because he was afraid. Who would have thought that after he finished asking, the trembling man kept shaking his head, and then opened his mouth and started screaming. Mute. "I don't believe this. You go and find them. I'll watch them. How dare they pretend in front of me? They must be tired of living." Feng said with a frown. You took a deep breath and said, "Okay, be careful." Then, she ran back the way she came. When you ran out of sight, the old lady who was lying on the ground suddenly jumped up and rushed toward Feng. At the same time, she shouted, "Fight with him. He's a fake. He only has 1 bullet." Bang! The old lady fell down. Feng narrowed his eyes and said to the 4 people who stood up and then stopped, "Guess, do I still have bullets?" Chapter 1051. The fact that the spy from the Zhang family and the Wang family, whose code name was Wind, had shot an old lady had completely frightened the other 8 people. They really wanted to ask, "How can a young man like you kill an unarmed old lady?" But they knew that it was useless to ask. He was only one person. Who wouldn't think of their own safety? In his eyes, there might not be old people or children, only family and enemies. As for guessing whether there were bullets in the pistol, it was a joke. Just now, he said that there was only 1 bullet that could kill a person decisively. How could there not be other bullets? The 8 people continued to lie on the ground without making a sound. Feng also stayed where he was. He did not look for the other people in this small village, nor did he chase after the young man who had run away. He should have brought information with him. Standing there, Feng took out another magazine and gritted his teeth, but he did not change it because he knew that there were still 4 bullets in the gun. There was no need to change it. If he changed it, it would be troublesome. If the people lying on the ground suddenly jumped up, it would be difficult for him to deal with them. At the moment, he was not worried. 4 bullets were enough to make 4 people lose their ability to resist. As for the remaining 4, even if he did not have time to change the bullets, he could finish them off with a knife in his arms. A quarter of an hour passed. Feng still stood there expressionlessly. The 8 people lying on the ground could no longer feel the humidity of the ground. Each of them only felt that the pressure on their bodies was enormous. Time seemed to drag on. Finally, one of them could no longer stand the silent confrontation. He turned his head and said to Feng, "It's useless for you to catch us. Even if you kill us, there's only one of us here in charge of external communication. That's the Yaoyu you're chasing. I advise you to go after him. I'll give you a piece of information. The tunnel below, the one on the far right, keep walking. When you can't see the road anymore, there is a slanted opening. Jump up, use your arms to support yourself, and climb out. You will see a pond in front of you. Jump down again and swim to the bottom of the opposite side of the pond. There is also an opening that goes up. After you go in, you will go down again. There is only one way. Go to the end and climb out again. There is a patch of reeds. Yao Yu ran from there. As for where he went, I don't know. After the speaker finished speaking, he looked at Feng with hopeful eyes, hoping that he would chase after him. However, Feng did not move. After 10 breaths, Feng finally spoke. Let's not talk about whether the information you provided is true or false. You only told me now. Do you think I'm a fool? Can I catch up? The reed marsh was densely covered with reeds, and there were puddles of water below. As someone who wasn't familiar with the terrain, I reckoned that if I fell in and died, I would only end up as fertilizer. I'm perplexed. Is the great Tang's rapid development not good enough for you? Your children will be able to go to school to study, and you pregnant people will be able to deliver babies for free. In the past, when you gave birth to 3 children, 2 of them would die. If things went wrong, the first child would die together with the mother and child. Nowadays, it's very difficult to die during childbirth. Also, don't you feel that the money you spend to see a doctor is 50 to 60% less than before? The medical center also had a cost. Wouldn't the imperial court settle the extra money for you? Rebellion? Only you can think of that. Humans should have a conscience, right? Aren't you afraid of ghosts knocking on your door when it's dark? If it were me, I wouldn't be able to sleep. Feng's words were very harsh and even went straight to the heart. He didn't want to educate the other party, nor did he want to help reduce the other party's punishment. He was very clear about the personalities of the young master and young lady. Although they usually looked magnanimous, they had an uncrossable bottom line. If you were bullied by the local government, you could resist, you could report, and you could even send a telegram to the capital. As long as the telegram was sent, even if the matter was very small in the eyes of ordinary people, even if there was a possibility that there was a false accusation, the young master and young lady would send people to investigate. This was a kind of attitude that made the local officials constantly remind themselves not to interfere. If they did, they would be caught. Of course, the person who complained also had to send a telegram with their household registration. However, the young master and young lady's tolerance only went so far. If there were people who wanted to rebel, they would definitely be brutally suppressed, and they wouldn't even be given a chance to explain. It wasn't that they were ruthless, but that they had zero tolerance. If you felt that the officials were bullying you, you could report them. Even Buddhism and Taoism, as well as other places that needed incense oil to worship, were strictly guarded. It was fine to spread the doctrine in a small area, but it was not allowed to incite. Moreover, temples and monasteries had to pay high taxes. According to the young master's words, the various sects shouldn't collect money in the name of collecting money for their descendants. Since they were spreading the doctrine, they should be poor. As for the affairs of their descendants, the imperial court would take care of it. Thinking of this, Feng hated the 8 people lying on the ground even more. How much time did the young master and young lady spend for other children to play? It was because of this that the Tang Empire had its current prosperity and peace. In the end, there were still people who wanted to destroy it. They deserved to die. The 8 people lying on the ground didn't know what Feng was thinking. They were still worried about their own lives. They were not like the old lady who had just died. The old lady was worried about her family, but they were different. What was different? Naturally, the benefits they received were different. Thus, seeing that the other party was silent, the one who had just spoken spoke again. We are not rebelling. We are doing this for the good of the Tang Empire. The Lord said that war will make us poor, and war will make the Tang Empire lose the support of the rest of the world. We are against war. We are against war. We want to follow the Lord and help those who want to do harm to other places change their minds. We want to make the Tang Empire a paradise for humans, a paradise without oppression and war. The other 7 people also chimed in. When Feng saw the expressions in their eyes and heard their words, he knew what was going on. It was very simple. They were like those people who had been taught by various sections. They only believed in ghosts and gods and were unwilling to accept reality. Their goal was basically the same as that of the young master and young lady. The young master and the others were working so hard to instill in the minds of the people of the Tang Empire that their Tang Empire was the strongest and that no one in the world was nobler than the people of the Great Tang. Thus, no matter where the people of the Tang Empire were, their souls would always belong to the Tang Empire. Although he knew, there was one thing that made Feng very angry. The young master and young lady had not only instilled such thoughts in the people, but had also been working hard to improve the living standards of the people of the Tang Empire. The military power of the Tang Empire had also provided a corresponding guarantee. The people had received practical benefits. Why couldn't they be proud of the Tang Empire? But what had the other party done? They had actually easily used a mysterious theory or doctrine to deceive the people and still supported this organization so stubbornly. Thinking of this, Feng asked the one who had just spoken, "What benefits did they give you?" "Benefits? Why do we have to pursue benefits? Isn't it enough that we help each other? People don't live for benefits. In our village, we are like a family. If there is not enough firewood to burn, there will be young people to help. If there is not enough rice, they can go to other people's houses to eat. Isn't this kind of care between people enough? Do you have to say that giving us money is helping us? No, we have the ability to obtain more things. We should help others. If each of us does something, many people will have a chance to survive. Why don't we do it?" The one who had spoken first began to reason with Feng. Another person who was lying on the ground said, "Little brother, he's right. Humans don't live for money. It's more about the feelings between humans. We should unite and help those who need help. We give them food that we can't finish and empty rooms for them to live in. If we lose our house and food one day, there will be people to help us. You see, now we are helping others. If our lives are good, we will not let those who can't eat starve. In fact, our village is not only the original people, but also the people who don't have a house. They don't have the ability to live now. Whether it is because they can't find a good job or because they don't have the strength to farm, we can help them. Isn't that good? Look at our fields. The yield is so high. Do we have to leave it all for ourselves?" "Bah!" Feng spat at this person and said, "You still have the face to say that. Don't you understand why the grain yield in your fields is high? That's because the Sinong Temple is doing experiments in various places, saying that the Jiangnan West Road is representative of the places along the river. That's why we sent the good seeds to you for free. Do you understand? The Sinong Temple didn't ask for a single copper coin from you. Who paid for it? The Sinong Temple's money is directly allocated by the Ministry of Works. Where did the Ministry of Works get the money? They asked for it from the Ministry of Revenue. The Ministry of Revenue didn't want to give it. It was the National Treasury's money. In the end, our Zhong family and Wang family paid for it. Do you have extra money? It's because your family's education and medical expenses are borne by the emperor and other merchants. You can pat your chests. Do you dare to say that you haven't received benefits from the imperial court and our Zhong family and Wang family? When you sell grain, no matter how low the price is, it can't be as low as 20%. It's only 20%. When you buy other daily necessities, such as salt and vegetable oil, no matter how high the price is, it can't be higher than 20%. Look at the clothes you wear. More than 10 years ago, you could wear cotton clothes, but can you wear fine linen clothes? Even if we give you 2 sets of coarse linen clothes, you have to watch who goes out before you can wear the clothes. Those who don't go out don't even have clothes. What do you know? Every time there's too much rain at the source of the river and important areas, how many people are worried? Just when there was a flood here, our family's fleet came over with the things His Majesty the Emperor allocated the money to buy. Don't you know what's going on? The more Feng spoke, the angrier he became. It seemed that he wanted to open his mouth and bite everyone who was lying down. Yes, we all know. But this is the grace of the Lord. The person who spoke just now nodded and admitted. You mother asterisk cur, shut up. If you speak again, I'll beat you to death. Feng burst out with a swear word. It was clear from the words in his words that he had definitely come into contact with Xiao Bei. Normal people wouldn't say this word. Sure enough, the threat of life was stronger than the grace of the Lord. The 8 people became well-behaved again and no longer tried to explain. But looking at their attitude, it was obvious that they still attributed all the benefits to the Lord. Feng was about to go crazy from anger. He was thinking that his code name could become crazy in the future, but he wasn't sure if Rain could become stupid. While both sides were sticking to their beliefs, Rain brought over 20 people on horseback. When Feng saw the dust, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Reinforcements had come. He was no longer fighting alone. Feng, how are they? Rain first looked at Feng. When he saw that Feng was fine, he asked. It's over. All of them are hopeless. They are preaching their egalitarianism to me. It's the kind of egalitarianism that the young master jokingly mentioned. If it's really King egalitarianism, how can this society develop? Who will research technology? I reckon they'll die if they're caught. Feng said helplessly. He was really annoyed. What the 8 people said sounded good, but it was definitely impossible to achieve. This was because he knew that for their ideas to be realized, it had to be based on the development of society's productive forces. It was too infuriating. Others were working hard to research technology, but they were spouting nonsense while enjoying the transformation of technology into productive forces. We can't die. The Lord said that death is weariness of this world. It's sinful. We have to continue to care for others. We live because we are the seeds of love. We have to spread it and then grow strong, just like your strong seedling protection team. The person lying on the ground tried hard to raise his head and said to Feng. Feng raised his hand and patted his head. He said to Rain, "You guys take over. My job is not to educate the people. This kind of task is too difficult." Fortunately, our seedling protection team didn't hear it. Otherwise, their combat power would be reduced by at least half. Rain couldn't help but shiver. He said to the people who followed, "Send a few people to watch over them first. The rest of you follow me to check the surroundings. Don't let your guard down. If you feel that someone is a threat to you, let them go see the Lord." Damn it. The more than 20 people who followed them didn't understand the situation. Some people who felt that they were thick-skinned were responsible for the task of watching over them. They needed to be taught by the Lord's messengers. Those who could persist and not have tinnitus were all elites. Feng and you continued to lead people to search on horseback. When the sky was dark, they caught 14 people. These 14 people actually walked along the main road. At night, they lit a fire. It seemed that their Lord didn't give them a lighthouse. The light from the Lord couldn't guide them for the time being. No, I don't know where that brat ran off to. Today, I finally understand the power of religion. No wonder the young master and young lady were so oppressive. A person without special training, with the help of the Lord, can actually run so fast through his own psychological suggestion? You took out the grain and other food in the small village. He made a big pot of rice and stewed some dishes. He ate and said to Feng. Feng fished out an unknown thing from the basin. He stuffed it into his mouth and said, "Next time, don't cook the stew first, okay? Did you pour the food in before the oil was boiled? Add salt, don't add soy sauce. What do you think this is? It's so black. If I hadn't been trained, I would have spat out my intestines after eating your food. Let me see. This. I guess it is. Guess? Let me take a bite. I know. Eggplant. If you don't believe me, look. It's black on the outside, but not on the inside. There's also something like eggplant seeds. Does it look like them? Tell me honestly, does it look like eggplant seeds?" You bit open a black thing and showed it to Feng. "Okay, it looks like them." The Lord said that it doesn't matter what it looks like. The most important thing is that it can fill people's stomachs. I want to go back to the main house to eat. The chefs there are good culinary skills. Yesterday, you ate my last canned food. When things are done here, you have to treat me to a big meal. Feng chewed the eggplant seed and complained to you in a muffled voice. Okay, I'll treat you to seafood at the Blue Sea Silver Sand. It's free anyway. You looked at the thing in the basin and agreed. Actually, I like to eat the dishes cooked by the little child. I wonder how the little child and the others are doing. Feng temporarily treated the meal in front of him as another training. Compared with this, the food he was eating now tasted really good. He started to talk about it. I reckon that they are still on the way. Xiaobei and the others have probably arrived in Hangzhou. We have to work hard. When Xiaobei and the others arrive, we must find out all the information for them. I don't want them to be in any danger. You swallowed a big mouthful of rice and looked to the east and said, as you thought, Xiaobei and the others arrived at the dock of Hangzhou when it was dark. The whole fleet was brightly lit. Jiang Wang clan didn't care about the cold night. She stood on the platform of the 4th floor and looked at the people coming and going. Under the light of the torches, it didn't seem dark at all. She didn't say anything for a long time. Old Man Wang was also standing behind Jiang Wang clan. He was waiting for the cargo ships at the dock to finish unloading and make way. Seeing that Xiao didn't say anything, he broke the silence and said, Xiao it's almost there. Look, Master and the others have already lined up and are waiting. Why don't we let the cargo ship go to the side first? Whose cargo ship is it? It's in the way. Jiang Wang clan shook her head and said, no, it's not easy for others. I didn't come back to bully them. Just wait, it'll be over soon. Then, Xiao, go back to the cabin first. Be careful of the cold wind. Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for your child. Old Man Wang advised again. Zhang Wangshe did not speak. Instead, she turned around and glanced at the maidservant beside her. The maidservant hurriedly called for someone to pull up the curtains around Zhang Wangshe so that the wind could only blow in from one side. That was definitely impossible. The wind would not come in when there was no way out and then go back through the opening unless it was against the wind. Xiaobei and the group of children were also waiting. They had already changed their clothes and put on their official robes. They were still wearing the decorations that didn't conform to the rules. The inner courtyard also put up all kinds of ceremonial weapons. There were banners, flags, umbrellas. There were many of them, including the ceremonial weapons of Jiang Wang clan and Madame Wang. Finally, the dockworkers at the front unloaded the goods at the fastest speed. They didn't even dare to delay the payment and left immediately. They were afraid that the Zhang clan and Wang clan behind them wouldn't be able to wait. The other ships in Xiaobei's fleet made way for the flagship to pass. When they reached the shore, Xiaobei ran down first, not even bothering with the ceremonial weapons. However, when she ran to the docks, she didn't wait for the others to salute her. She turned around and ran back. She panted heavily and shouted, go back and change your clothes. They didn't put up the ceremonial weapons to welcome us. Everyone, including Jiang Wang clan, heard Xiaobei's words and returned to the cabin to change their clothes. These were two different attitudes. If the other party put up the ceremonial weapons of an official, they would also put up the ceremonial weapons that symbolized their status. If the other party didn't, they couldn't use their status to pressure them. After all, he was Jiang Wang clan's biological father. The people waiting at the docks were puzzled. They didn't understand why the people who were just about to disembark suddenly disappeared. Even the flags that were raised by people on the ships had disappeared. When a steward saw this situation, he jogged to the side of a carriage and said to the person who had already come out, Master, they went back again. Do they not want to see you? Wait. This person, who didn't look very old, only said one word. He didn't give off the feeling that he was very anxious. His tone was calm. However, under the light of the fire, the little wrinkles on his face and the frown on his brows made it clear to everyone in the family that the master was very anxious. It was a kind of anxiety that had never been seen before. The odd job workers and maidservants in the family felt this anxiety, but no one made a sound. They all anxiously looked at the big ship docked at the docks. To be precise, They were looking at the figure on the ship that was still hanging on the gangplank at the docks. None of the people who came to receive them were new people. They were all people who had been in the family before. People who had been recruited in the past 10 years were not allowed to come, perhaps because of the safety concerns. This wait lasted for another 15 minutes. Some maidservants wished they could grow wings and fly up to see the situation. Only then did the number of people begin to increase. People gradually walked down from the gangplank. Everyone who came to receive them at the docks discovered that something was different from before. The people who had been standing at the docks were holding official banners. Now, they were all replaced with banners and lanterns with the pattern of rice seedlings. When the person who was called Master saw the change in the guard of honor, his nervous expression also changed. A special smile appeared on his face. "Grandfather, where is grandfather?" "Xiao Bei, I've come to see you." Accompanied by a crisp child's voice that resounded through the night sky, Xiao Bei jumped down first. After jumping a few times, she arrived at the docks. She was not afraid of falling. When she arrived at the docks, Xiao Bei stopped and began to look around. With just a glance, she was smart enough to determine her target. She then jumped and ran toward the carriage. When she stood in front of the person who was called Master, Xiao Bei immediately knelt down and kowtowed 3 times. She did not need anyone to help her and stood up again. She opened her arms and said to the person who was looking at her in shock, "Grandfather, I am Xiao Bei. The cutest Xiao Bei. Carry me." The man stared blankly at Xiao Bei. After a few breaths, he finally reacted. He crouched down and picked up Xiao Bei. He didn't know where he got the strength, but he only used one arm to hold Xiao Bei firmly. He used his other hand to wipe Xiao Bei's forehead with heartache. As he wiped, he said, "Xiao Bei, my good granddaughter. Oh, why did you use so much strength? Look, it's red. Does it hurt? I saw you running down just now. Why did you go back?" Xiao Bei grinned, revealing a gap between her teeth. She shook her head and said, "It doesn't hurt. Let me tell you. When I saw you, I knew you were my grandfather. Then, it didn't hurt at all. In fact, I wanted to come and see you for a long time, but I didn't have the time. Grandfather, you don't know. I'm very busy. The Tang Empire always makes me meet bad officials. I can't avoid them even if I want to. Don't you think it's very infuriating? When I saw it, I had to care. I was used to it just now. I also wanted to patrol the place. But when I ran down to take a look, guess what? It was not the official's ceremonial welcome. Oh, I just remembered. I came to see grandfather. How could there be an official ceremonial welcome, right? I ran back and changed my clothes. Look, do I look good? There are decorations in this part of the clothes. I like this set of clothes the most, so I want to wear it for grandfather to see. There are also candies. The candies from the precious candy house that I opened with them are for you to eat. Xiao Bei was very excited as she spoke. She showed her clothes to the other person and took out candies from her pocket. She peeled off the candy wrapper and stuffed one into the other person's mouth. Then, she tilted her head and waited for the other person to praise her. The person holding Xiao Bei was already speechless. With the candy in her mouth and tears in her eyes, she kept nodding. She nodded and whimpered as she nodded, as if she was answering Xiao Bei. The person in charge at the side was dumbfounded. He even suspected that the girl in the master's arms was real. That was the Tang Empire's patrol inspector. It was said that whenever she saw an official, she would always be cold and dignified. However, the girl in front of him was not dignified at all. She was just a cute little girl, the kind that made people want to kiss her. She was not just a little fun. Her mouth was sweet and her smile was sweet. Could it be that the legend was false? With this thought in mind, he opened his arms and said, "Master, please take care of yourself. Let me carry you." Who knew that just as he finished speaking, the smile on the cute little girl's face suddenly disappeared. She glared at him with a gloomy expression and questioned him, "Who are you?" "I'm letting my grandfather carry me. Do you want to take advantage of me?" Do you have that kind of life? Leave. The person in charge was shocked. Wasn't she too skilled at changing her expression in an instant? In front of him was no longer the little girl who was smiling like a flower. She was clearly a high and mighty princess. The indifferent look in her eyes was as if she was going to kill someone in the next moment. Grandfather, is it because Xiao Bei is very heavy and tired of carrying me? Then I'll go down. Is the candy sweet? Xiao Bei changed back to a smile. Although she said that she wanted to go down, she did not make any move to go down. She still stayed in the person's arms steadily. With a pop sound, Xiao Bei was kissed. Then he heard the other party say, "Not heavy." "Ha ha ha ha, my Xiao Bei is so good. Sweet, so sweet. The candy of my baby candy house lives up to its name. Leave. Look at how scared my precious granddaughter is." The person in charge left gloomily. He cursed in his heart, "Who is the one who ordered who?" No wonder the officials were so afraid of Xiao Bei and the others. They were really good. The look in their eyes just now was really murderous. Although the person in charge was gloomy, he did not dare to harbor any hatred. Not to mention that the master would not protect him. If he really offended Xiao Bei, even if the master protected him, he would not be able to keep his life. Xiao Bei did not even need to use the power of the family. She only needed to stand on the bustling streets of Hangzhou and shout about how things were going on here. The people of Hangzhou would probably drown him with a mouthful of saliva. With Xiao Bei's prominent status and cute appearance, there was a reason even if there was no reason. Grandfather, let me tell you. In the future, let the servants in the family watch their expressions. They want to get involved in everything. That won't do. Look at the inner courtyard of my family. They are like my family. Good, you know what I am thinking, right? Xiao Bei continued to talk to her grandfather. She was very good at talking. It was not good to criticize other people's servants, but she kept praising her own family. She even compared the inner courtyard to her family. Yes, then I'll dismiss him later. I don't want him anymore, okay? The person asked Xiao Bei. The person in charge became nervous. He was afraid that Xiao Bei would nod. However, Xiao Bei did not agree. Instead, she said, "No, he is also afraid that you will be tired. He is loyal. If he does not do well, you can teach him. But if he is loyal, you can't teach him. Therefore, not only can you not chase him away, you should also take time to reward him." When the person in charge heard Xiao Bei's words, he was so moved that he was about to cry. He felt like he had a close friend. He wanted to say to Xiao Bei, "You finally said something fair." Xiao Bei's grandfather nodded at the person in charge. Then, he asked Xiao Bei, "What if your family's inner courtyard makes a mistake?" Change. Xiao Bei's answer was very simple. Then what if he continues to make the same mistake? The person asked again. That will explain two things. First, my family's teaching is not good. Adjust the details of my family's education. Second, he is not suitable for this position. It is my family's arrangement that is not good enough. Adjust his position. Xiao Bei raised 2 fingers and said, "But after these 2 points, he still makes a mistake. What do you say?" Again. Then there is a big problem. Who recruited him into the inner courtyard? Investigate the person who recruited him and then send him to the outer courtyard. That is too harmful. Xiao Bei's answer surprised the person in charge. It was actually to deal with the person who had been recruited into the inner courtyard. But after thinking about it, it did make sense. If someone wanted to enter the inner courtyard of the Zhang family and Wang family, they had to first train outside. Yes, their system was different. Xiao Bei put this topic aside and said to the person in charge, "Grandfather, if you like to eat the candy from baby's candy house, I will specially ask someone to make it for you in the future. You are not allowed to eat too much candy. Eating too much is not good for your health. When we sell candy, we don't sell it to anyone who wants to eat as much as they want. Regardless of whether it is an adult or a child, we earn money from our conscience." Okay. Eat more in the future, but eat less. Remember, it is good to earn money from your conscience. Xiao Bei, why do you want to earn money by yourself? You are still young. The person nodded repeatedly and then asked another question. Because we want to earn money by ourselves and give it to our parents and grandparents. Our grandparents are old. We want them to spend more of our money. Otherwise, when we want to earn money for them to spend in the future, they won't be able to spend it. Oh, it's called, children want to raise but their parents don't want to wait. I will also spend it for you. Xiao Bei waved her little hands and said. Her words made the person in charge stunned again. At this time, Xiao Yuan and the others came over, as well as the Jiang Wang clan. They had been waiting for Xiao Bei to finish speaking. The person holding Xiao Bei kissed Xiao Bei again and slowly put her on the ground. He said to the Jiang Wang clan, Xiao, you have worked hard to raise the children like this. Father, quick, kowtow to your grandfather. The Jiang Wang clan's tears flowed down. She wanted to kneel first and call out to the other children. Naturally, the other party couldn't let his daughter kneel. He quickly helped her up and said, Don't worry, you have a child. Your stomach is more important. Xiao Yuan and the others kowtowed to the other party. Although Xiao Yuan had nothing to do with the other party, she still had to follow suit. What followed was naturally a touching scene of the father and daughter reconciling. It took a while for it to end. The Zhang clan and Wang clan's people pulled a large group to the arranged place. The news quickly spread to Zhang Xiaobao. After hearing the news, Zhang Xiaobao sighed and said to Wang Wan, In this world, there are only two kinds of things that make parents feel the most helpless and sad. One is when they choose a good husband for their daughter, only to find out that after they get married, the other party is a good-for-nothing and doesn't treat their daughter well. The other kind is like now. At first, they didn't like the other party, but the other party became powerful. This relationship is not good. How can parents endure it? Our parents are still the best. They arranged for us to be together since we were young, don't you think so? Zhang Xiaobao could imagine how depressed his grandfather was. His grandfather was Wang Ju, the Minister of Revenue of the Tang Empire. He was also known as the Prime Minister and a meritorious official, but in the end, he didn't have a good ending. I said no. Who wants to be together with you? You can be smug. For someone like me, even if I want to marry a hero like Xiongyu, Wang Ju is already very good. He didn't do anything to your father. How much power does he have? Wang Wan insisted on attacking Zhang Xiaobao. In any case, she was just arguing. Zhang Xiaobao snorted disdainfully and said, Xiongyu is good? He can't even protect his own woman? Those who live are heroes. Those who die are losers. Wang Ju had power at that time, but wasn't he busy? At the beginning, he was busy fighting with Li Longji for the position. In the end, my father found an opportunity. Just when they had just gotten the position and were still unstable, he successfully snatched my mother away. What could he do? What's done is done. Isn't he worried about being attacked by others? Actually, at that time, I think he already realized that something was wrong, so he used most of his energy to curry favor with Li Longji. In the end, when the position was stable, he was alienated by Li Longji. Not long after, we came out. At that time, if he really wanted to do something to my family, Li Longji would probably think that he was fickle. The alienation would turn into disgust. Besides, he doesn't only have one daughter. He doesn't have any other relatives. Girls aren't as important as boys. Who said that girls aren't important? I think they are. For example, Xiao Bei isn't important. Who is Wu Zetian? Do you know her? Wang Wan continued to argue. I don't know her. I haven't seen her before. If she sees me, I'll definitely let her know how powerful I am. Humph, I'll make sure that she can't become empress. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he yawned and turned around. He hugged Wang Wan and said, Go to sleep. We still have to wake up early tomorrow. We're in a hurry. The next morning, Zhang Xiaobao had just finished cooking the porridge. When he was about to call Li Longji and the others to eat, the the report from Zhengzhou arrived. Zhang Xiaobao casually glanced at it. This time, he didn't have the mood to eat slowly. He hurriedly ate until he was half full. He picked up the report and read it carefully. He handed it to Wang Wan, who was also eating quickly, and said, "It seems that things are a bit troublesome." Wang Wan took the report and read it from top to bottom. After she finished reading, her expression became serious and said, "It is indeed troublesome. The thing that I'm most worried about has finally appeared. I remember that something like this shouldn't have happened." Zhang Xiaobao understood what Wang Wan was saying. She was referring to the history they had studied. It didn't mention anything other than Buddhism and Taoism. There wasn't much about the Arabian region either. As for the current situation, there wasn't even any mention of it in the unofficial history. If one really talked about the religious struggle in the Tang Dynasty, it was nothing more than Buddhism and Taoism. When one rose, the other would inevitably be suppressed. Or more seriously, it could be said that it was almost destroyed. Not only was it not allowed to spread, but it was even killed. Like all the religions in the world, they fought with each other. Under the banner of teaching people to be good, they used iron and blood to eliminate dissidents. Politicians also like to use religion to achieve their own goals. Maybe it has changed, or maybe no one mentioned it. Anyway, that's the case. I don't know about other things, but I know that the power of religion is very strong. It can confuse people. They have been propagated by people with intentions, and gradually improved in the process, filling in all the possible loopholes. They are all people with great wisdom. My meaning is very simple. There is only one way. Kill until they are afraid. Kill until they feel that believing in this thing will not only not bring them any benefits, but will also lead to a fatal disaster. If you don't kill, it will be difficult to use conciliatory methods. For example, if they don't have food to eat and you send them food, they won't thank you. Instead, they will thank something like God, believing that God sent you to send them food. Their piety has moved God and so on. This is the most disgusting situation. Fanatical religious belief can turn a group of people into madmen who don't care about their lives. We don't fear madmen, but we can kill people who are about to become madmen. Don't you think so? Zhang Xiaobao no longer pursued whether it was recorded in history or not. Instead, he spoke of his own method of dealing with the current situation. Wang Wan was also disgusted by this kind of religion, especially when it was used by people with intentions. It could produce many effects and harm to a regime. Overthrowing a regime was all too common. She didn't want to continue conniving. Even if she knew that the current religion couldn't overthrow the Tang regime, she didn't intend to be soft-hearted and let it develop and then create some kind of uprising. Therefore, Wang Wan agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's words and said, "What I mean is, kill. Because people who are obsessed will have their minds changed. They will only choose one path and walk down it, no matter how you educate them. Just like what was written in the intelligence, they walked on the path we built, used the seeds we provided to grow high-yielding rice and wheat, and also enjoyed the treatment we provided to them in terms of medical treatment. But the result? In the end, they thought that all this was brought to them by the heavens, that the God they believed in was helping them, so they continued to do things that destroyed the peace and stability of the Tang Empire." After the two of them spoke, the tone was basically set. As for how many people would pay with their lives in the end, Zhang Xiaobao was not a soft-hearted person. He could even do it himself. Wang Wan also didn't care about how much blood she saw. Li Longji was still eating slowly. He didn't see the intelligence report. Seeing Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan say such things after reading the intelligence report, he was very puzzled. He stopped eating and asked, "What happened?" "It's just a small matter. It's just a few people dying. Someone is preaching. Cuckoo and I have the same idea. Whether it's the preacher or the believer, we'll kill them as soon as we catch them. However, we can't let the local authorities do it. Your Majesty, it's best that your people don't do it either. First, your people's management is lacking compared to our family's protection team. It's easy for people to kill unjustly to gain merit. Second, if we start killing people, it'll be bad for our reputation. Let me and Cuckoo take the blame. Anyway, we've done a lot already. It won't be a big deal this time. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he passed the intelligence report over. It was written in detail on a piece of paper, and there were even more descriptions of the underground tunnels. Li Longji took it and read the general introduction on the first page. He couldn't eat any more. He also knew how powerful this religion was. He had used it before, and he had also attacked it before. Even now, he was still using it to teach the people of the Tang Empire. A belief, a code of conduct, no matter who was in power, could abandon it. The consequences would be even more serious. If that was the case, even the basic morality would be abandoned. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had explained the consequences of not being restrained by morality. Just thinking about it was scary. As he thought about it, Li Longji put down his food and read it carefully. After he was done, he asked Zhang Xiaobao, are you and Cuckoo really going to kill people? I reckon that we'll have to kill a lot of people. Can you find the person behind this and get rid of him immediately? Without the support of a leader, the people who believe in him will gradually become suspicious and change their minds. Li Longji really didn't want to kill his own people. He couldn't protect them all, so how could he bear to kill them all? After thinking for a while, he said, Xiao Bao, do you think that I didn't do a good job as an emperor? I was supposed to educate the people, but in the end, something like this happened. Sigh. I can't bear to do this. You're so smart. Can you think of another way? Zhang Xiaobao looked at Li Longji and sighed in his heart. An emperor who didn't care about life had become like this. Should he feel lucky or speechless? But since the other party wanted him to think about it, then he would think about it. Zhang Xiaobao lowered his head and began to think. Half an hour passed, and just as Li Longji was about to support the two of them to kill the people, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly raised his head and said with a smile, Actually, it's fine even if we don't kill them. Chapter 1052. When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he smiled. This was exactly what he was waiting for. He already thought that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had already completed their apprenticeship, and there was nothing that could stop them. Now that he saw it, it was indeed so. He smiled and asked, Tell me, you are full of evil ideas. How do you want to solve this problem? Your Majesty, Xiao Bao is indeed smart. I think that it is best to solve this problem through economic means. Wu Huifei was biased towards Zhang Xiaobao. She didn't want to hear others badmouth Zhang Xiaobao, just like how Empress Wang didn't want to hear others badmouth Wang Wan. Wu Huifei had been asking Zhang Xiaobao a lot of questions recently. Many economic problems seemed very complicated, but when Zhang Xiaobao explained them, they were very simple. For example, in a foreign country, other countries would use their monetary policies to influence the Great Tang's currency ratio. According to Xiaobao's book, this was an extremely complicated situation. There was the unequal exchange of currencies, the foreign currency control in the export process, and the inflation control in the domestic currency exchange process. If no one used the simplest logic to explain it, unless one was a genius, they would be confused to death. Everything was a mess, especially when the domestic currency was exchanged with foreign countries. Why would the gradual appreciation of the domestic currency in circulation devalue the domestic currency? But after listening to Zhang Xiaobao's explanation, she understood. That was, other people's money could buy other people's things, but your money couldn't. So, if you want to buy other people's things, you have to sell your own things. If your currency was valuable, other people would feel that it was expensive. So, if you let the currency depreciate first, you would be exploiting your own country's citizens. At this time, other people's money would come in. If you promote exports, other people would come to buy things. Using other people's money to exchange for your country's money, when your currency appreciated, they would naturally be able to exchange more of their money when they returned. In this way, not only would it affect your exports, but it would also reduce your foreign currency reserves. Then, the effect of the political control of currency devaluation would be reflected. With the foreign currency exchange gone, your country's money would be worthless. The only thing you could do was to improve your technology and promote internal product demand. Wu Huifei had listened to Zhang Xiaobao's explanation of one example after another, and only then did she understand the content in this area. In the end, when she thought she had learned well, Zhang Xiaobao told her that this was the simplest and most basic thing. If they wanted to use this method to attack other countries, there was no need for Zhang Xiaobao to do anything. Cuckoo alone could play the other countries to death. If Zhang Xiaobao was serious, he would create a false impression that the Great Tang's currency was depreciating. Then, after the appreciation, the Great Tang would discover that while the country's GNP was growing, its purchasing power had decreased. At this time, the people of the Great Tang would be better off due to the depreciation of the currency. This was because there was an advantage in the international currency itself. At the same time, it was also the effect of the government's financial subsidies to the people. Wu Huifei had not studied this thoroughly yet. Anyway, she knew that if Xiaobao were to do it, it would be like what was written in the book of Tao Te Ching. Give him a space to express himself, and he would make you feel what it meant to be mysterious and wonderful. It was because she knew her own shortcomings that she did not like to hear others say bad things about Xiaobao. Even if it was the emperor, she would still be unhappy. Li Longji also knew that his concubine was a little like a religious believer in Zhang Xiaobao. He shook his head helplessly and said, "I don't believe it. Xiaobao usually takes the initiative to attack others with the economy. Of course, when others use the economy to harm the Great Tang, Xiaobao's counterattack will be sharper. Japan and Tubo have already experienced it. But now that the other party has not revealed their identity, even if Xiaobao wants to attack, he has to find the right target. Furthermore, Xiaobao's personality is similar to that of the stories that Yaowan tells her younger brothers and sisters, which is to give them a taste of their own medicine. What is it called again? Changing the Stars. Empress Wang interrupted. She liked to read everything that Cuckoo wrote, and she also liked the stories that Cuckoo told to her younger brothers and sisters. There were times when she truly couldn't understand how a child like Huan Huan could know so many things. There was no need to talk about military matters. There were many generals in the Great Tang who could win a battle, and some of them had even won battle after battle. But in the situation that Cuckoo was facing, the so-called victory of other generals was to be able to save the generals on their side and try their best to save the other soldiers. As for Huan Huan, under such circumstances, she had won a beautiful battle despite being outnumbered. Furthermore, she had directly threatened the safety of Tubo as a whole. Then, she had successfully retreated, leaving Tubo with endless regret and humiliation. At the same time, Xiaobao finally showed the world what was called two swords in harmony. This was the most worthy legend of the two of them. However, Cuckoo could still tell many stories and write many poems. What was more surprising was that Cuckoo was very familiar with the politics in the palace. If there was no Cuckoo, she might not be where she was now. Xiaowu was really amazing. She could not win against her. Empress Wang looked at Zhang Xiaobao and then looked at Wang Wan. She muttered to herself, "That's strange, even if there is an expert teaching them, how can the children learn? I have seen many geniuses, but I have never seen people like the two of them. If it was someone else, they might not be able to learn a thing or two from the two of them in their lifetime. Xiaobei and the other children are smart, but compared to their older brothers and sisters, they are still too far apart. I can't understand. I hope that Pan and the rest can learn more. I am satisfied with half of their abilities." Empress Wang's voice was not soft. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan heard it, they looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. They knew that it was impossible because the education system was different. At that time, there was no need to say that they were geniuses. The things that normal children learned would scare the people of the Tang Empire to death. The reason why the younger siblings were smart was because the two of them used the most classic teaching method. That was the treatment that only the children of rich families had. They gave individual lessons and encouraged education. Just the money spent on the children in a year was no less than 3 million. This was not the nurturing method of the family, but the price of the elite kindergarten. Wu Huifei sighed. She knew that her son had no hope. At the same time, She felt that Empress Wang was too greedy. She wanted to learn half of it. How much did Xiao Bei and the rest learn? When they were the same age, the things that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan knew were the sum of the 9 younger siblings' knowledge, and even more. Li Longji was also thinking about it because there were always people saying that there were 2 kinds of things. The inner circle of the Tang Empire said that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were the reincarnation of immortals. They did not need to work hard like other children to learn. As long as you taught them once, they would be able to remember it immediately and draw inferences about other things. The people outside said that the 2 of them were monsters, and it even spread to the palace. They even thought that they could kill them. What a joke. To them, they were definitely monsters, but to them, they were national scholars. The more monsters they were, the better. Monster, Xiao Bao, you monster, hurry up and say it. Look at the 2 of you. How many people's hearts are affected by your every action? Since young, you have never allowed others to have peace. What auspicious sign. Isn't it just a greenhouse? Then you took explosives to blow up other people's wells. At that time, the furnace for steelmaking was not done properly. You made something like a rice flour and sold it at a sky-high price. How are you going to deal with them? You can't live a good life, but you insist on believing in some other religion. Can't you believe in us? Even if we are high and mighty, we can believe in the 2 of you. Speak. As Li Longji was thinking, he suddenly realized that Zhang Xiaobao had lowered his head and was eating again. He did not have time to eat his own 2 fried eggs. He actually shared them with his wife with Xiao Bao. Didn't the 2 of you eat medium rare? Ours is medium rare. Ah. Zhang Xiaobao raised his hand and rubbed his mouth with a blank expression. Wang Wan was secretly laughing at the side. Just now, when Xiao Bao saw that the other party had entered a state of deep thought, he brought over the food that the other party was eating. The reason was very good. He said that thinking about problems exhausted one's brain and needed to replenish one's nutrition. It was not like physical work where one could just replenish one's protein. A brain worker's first thought was to replenish one's glucose. Thus, he ate the other party's eggs, which were high in protein. I'm asking you a question. Speak. Only you, Xiao Bao. If it were any other subject who dared to ignore us, we would definitely have Xiao Bei arrest him. Xiao Bao, if we had Xiao Bei arrest you, do you think Xiao Bei would do it? When Li Longji was talking about serious matters, he changed the topic again. In response to your Majesty's question, Xiao Bei would capture this subject to tell them a story. This subject's idea is actually not special at all. There are only 2 points. One is to fish in troubled waters, the other is to add fuel to the fire, and the other is to fight poison with poison. Zhang Xiaobao helped to correct the topic. How do we play? Will many of our great Tang citizens die? This was what Li Longji was most concerned about. In theory, no. In practice, there might be some losses. This is the best method I can think of, Zhang Xiaobao replied. What method? Li Longji and the others asked at the same time. Zhang Xiaobao immediately said. Instead, he took out a small box from his bosom and handed it to Wang Wan. Wang Wan glared at Zhang Xiaobao and said, when people smoke cigars, they don't inhale into their lungs. They use their tongue and nose to feel the purity of the smoke. When you smoke, you inhale into your lungs. There's something wrong with you. Although she said this, Wang Wan still cut the cigar that Zhang Xiaobao had instructed her to roll. After roasting it, she lit it up and stuffed it into Zhang Xiaobao's mouth. What purity! At the beginning, cigars were used as stimulants. They can even be eaten. It's such a pure smoke, it's a pity not to smoke it. There are also people who eat it. Compared to the exhaust gas and smoke from the chemical industry, this little bit of smoke is nothing. On average, I smoke 1 every 5 days. Zhang Xiaobao explained first. Then, he said to Li Longji and the others, it's actually very simple. No matter how strong a fortress is, it's most afraid of being breached from the inside. Since others use this kind of religious method to deceive people, we should follow their example. I'll arrange for some people to join in and then come up with their doctrine. Cuckoo, and I will modify it to make it more reasonable. Then, we'll send it back. At this time, the other party will have a hard time. If they accept the new doctrine, they will not be able to face the censure of their original doctrine by the people we have placed in their past. If they deny the new doctrine, they will have to deny their own doctrine, for we have changed it according to the basis of their doctrine. In this way, their external struggle will become their internal struggle. It's very interesting. When we design several principles based on their original doctrine and come up with a new doctrine, it's inevitable that they will split up. Because their religion itself is very ambitious, and only those with ambition in their hearts would think of a way to spread it. Once there is a gap between the various leaders, when they see an opportunity, we don't have to worry about it anymore. At that time, I'll arrange for people to infiltrate and capture their leaders. After that, we'll take their power back. Then, we'll further improve the doctrine and let the people return to normal. If there's still someone who's not normal, we'll send them to the border and encourage them to follow the doctrine and fight. This is the only way. When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he felt his hair stand on end. This is too sinister. Without waiting for him to say anything, Wang Wan followed Zhang Xiaobao's train of thought and said, "Actually, it's not too difficult to seize power. The reason why they succeeded was because we didn't have the time to carry out the spiritual civilization of the people. As a result, they found a small loophole to take advantage of. When we carry out the spiritual civilization of the people, it'll be difficult for their religion to develop. At the same time, if they want to develop well, they need financial support. In front of similar doctrines, the believers can't tell which is true and which is false. They prefer to see the practical results. We provide the money. This way, the people we arrange will have more say in the religion, overthrow the original leader, and establish a new spiritual pillar." This time, Li Longji and the others agreed. Indeed, all seemingly sturdy factions usually started to disintegrate from the inside. "Xiao Bao, Cuckoo, we understand what you mean. Perhaps it will take some time, but the effect should be good. When the time comes, we'll capture their people and kill them all. Let's see who dares to do anything to harm our great Tang in the future." Li Longji planned to support this, meaning that he would also send people to join in. The more people there were, the more chaotic the religion would become. When Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao heard Li Longji's words, they shook their heads at the same time. Zhang Xiaobao said, "Actually, Cuckoo and I just find it annoying. We don't want to specifically target the leaders sent by the enemy. We want to know which faction, or organization, or country is causing trouble. When the time comes, we'll directly target the most basic figure of the enemy. I hope it's not Silla, Japan, or a group of small countries in the southwest. Otherwise, our energy is limited, and we can only arrange for the other ministers in the court to take action." Wang Wan pointed to the northwest, implying that she hoped that it was the people of Duoshi who were causing trouble. "Then what would the two of you do if it was another country?" Li Longji asked. "Endure. For the time being, we'll cut off the other party's hand. Then, we'll endure until we have free hands," Zhang Xiaobao replied. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.